All right, it's 7 o'clock. We got everybody. Looks like everybody is here. So we will call the Clayton City Council meeting of September 21st, 2021, the last day of summer, to order. And we will go now to our meeting protocol video. Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I will first call roll call. Councilmember Diaz.
I'm sorry. I'm out of practice. We've been out of this for a month now. So anyway, welcome.
All right. Councilmember Diaz.
Present.
Councilmember Tillman.
Here.
Councilmember Juan.
Here.
Vice Mayor Cloven.
I am here.
Mayor Wolf.
I'm here too. Okay, now you can roll the video.
Due to COVID-19, this meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar pursuant to the provisions of the Governor's Executive Order N-2920, which suspends certain requirements of the Brown Act. This meeting is being webcast on the City of Clayton's website. The mayor will call upon its council, presenters, staff, and other speakers by name and ask that they speak clearly and state their name before giving comments or remarks. Persons participating via webcast and Zoom with their cameras enabled are reminded that their activities are visible to viewers. Members of the public participating by Zoom wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. Telephone attendees will be called upon by the last 4 digits of their phone number. It is requested that public speakers state their name, but providing such information is voluntary. Written public comments received by Clayton City Clerk by 5 p.m. today will be entered into the record, but will not be read out loud. If authors of the written correspondence would like to speak, they are free to do so and should raise their hand and the mayor will call upon them at the appropriate time. A roll call vote will be taken for all action items. The chat feature is not active. In order to get the full Zoom experience, please make sure your application is up to date.
Okay, we're going to move on now to item number 3, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, as usual, led by Councilmember Diaz. Oh, kind of lost him.
Yes, there. I am ready.
There you are.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilmember Diaz. We're moving on now to item number 4, which is the consent calendar. Does anyone on the council have anything they'd like to discuss?
Actually, it's not related to an item on the consent calendar in particular, but for item 4C, did I hear that we had was there any issue with our current agreement with Harris and the city engineer? Was there something to report there with our newly designated city engineer, or is there nothing there?
There's nothing there. The contract with the new city engineer or the appointing of the new city engineer was handled by the council at one of the last 2 meetings. And this is just related to this specific project.
Okay, so no change to that appointment in any way?
Nope.
Okay, cool, that was it.
Thank you. And we'll go to members of the public now. If anybody has any public comment on the consent calendar, we'll open that up.
Mayor Wolf, I have one hand raised. Rebecca, as I promote you to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. And actually, Raina, if you can give me a hand with that. Sorry.
I have a feeling she wanted to speak during the do the right thing portion. She's a teacher at the elementary school.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The hand has gone down, so there's no other hands raised on this item.
All right, then we'll close public comment and bring it back for motion to the council.
Move to approve consent calendar, please.
We have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got a first by Cloven, second by Juan. Janet, please call the vote.
Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Tillman,
Yes.
Councilmember Juan.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cloven,
Yes.
and Mayor Wolf.
Yes,
Thank you.
and that passes. Okay. All right, now we'll move on to recognitions and presentations, item number 5. And we have our certificates of recognition to our public school students for exemplifying the Do the Right Thing character trait of responsibility during the months of August and September 2021. And I guess we'll start. Is Katie Sanchez here, our principal for Mount Diablo Elementary? No? Yes. Do we have a representative from Mount Diablo Elementary? Oh, okay, Rebecca, I didn't know because Katie said that she would be joining us today. So,
okay, yes, both my colleague Melissa Fail and I are here to present awards.
great. Okay, who do you have, Rebecca?
Yes, my student is Kaya Brogan.
Yeah, yes.
And do I keep going? I didn't know if
Tell us about Kaya Brogan.
I'm very happy to tell you about Kaya Brogan. When I'm a 4th grade teacher at Mount Diablo Elementary School. My name is Rebecca Carcamo. And when I'm very fortunate to have many responsible students in my class, but when I was asked to nominate someone for this award, Kaya came straight to my mind. Kaya's incredibly responsible in turning in her classwork and her homework on time. She also puts forth excellent effort and turns in quality work. And the other thing that makes her stand out is that Kaya is participating in the instrumental music program here. And when you're a 4th or 5th grader and you're participating in instrumental music, you miss class, some regular class, but it's up to the student to find out what they missed and turn it in the next day without any reminders really from your teacher. And Kaya has been just Johnny on the spot in terms of
Kaya on the spot.
Kaya on the spot in terms of figuring out what her work is. Of course, she comes up to me and very politely asks, and then she turns it in. The next morning, it's the first paper in the basket. So I'm really pleased with Kaya that she's doing such a wonderful job as at the beginning of 4th grade, getting all her work complete and conducting herself in such a mature way. So it's my honor and privilege to present this award to Kaya Brogan.
Terrific. I see Brogan has popped onto the screen. It's all in red. It says Donna Brogan.
And there are 2 other Brogans in the attendee list that I have been desperately trying to promote to panelists because all of their names are the same. So I'm still working on that, and I apologize. Zoom seems to be frustrating my efforts in that regard. So that looks like it might.
Wait a minute. Something came on. Something came from outer space there. Look at that. Is that Kaya? Yes, that is Kaya. Well, we want to applaud you, Kaya, for being a responsible student and winning this fantastic award. We're going to make sure that all of our council members sign your certificate, and we'll be sending that off to you. So do you have anything you want to say?
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being exemplary in responsibility. Very responsible person. So thank you very much. All right. And now, Miss Fail, we have you for it looks like Ethan is here with us.
All right, awesome. All right, so hi, I'm Melissa Fail, and the child that I'm honoring this time is my child, Ethan White. And Ethan is a kid that takes his education very seriously and shows that he is in school to learn. He takes each day and participates in class discussions and shows what he knows through his love of learning. Ethan has made the transition to the combo class because we are now a 4-5 combo over at MDE. And he's taken it with ease and has taken the independence that is required of this class and made sure that he is still staying engaged and thoughtful in his own work. He is a hard worker that is always looking to help others around him, as well as finishing his own work. Ethan is a kid that can be counted on to do what is asked of him. In fact, he is my technology guru. He can fix any technology thing that I have that's going wrong. And he can always find a way to get around any struggle that he has. He asks for help if he needs it and does whatever will make himself successful. I thoroughly enjoy having Ethan in my class this year, and I look forward to everything that he will be adding to our 4-5 combo. Thank you, Ethan.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Hey, Ethan, congratulations. Yay. Very good. Terrific. So you are a responsible student too. Are you looking forward to the rest of the school year?
Yeah, I am. My brother had Miss Fail, and she said she was really good. So.
All right. Terrific. Well, thank you. Thank you for being so responsible and for winning this award. We're going to be sending you your certificate as well. So congratulations to Kaya and to Ethan today from Mount Diablo Elementary. Thank you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you.
And now we're going to go on to Diablo View Middle School. Who do we have from Diablo View Middle School today? Is Mr. Fong representing? So we'll bring Mr. Fong. Oh, there he is. That's on my phone. Hello, Mr. Fong.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. How are you? Thanks for showing up today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. All right. Well, I have two students. I don't know if they're in the waiting room or not, but I have Jesse Thompson and AJ Esfer. So, oh, I see Miss Thompson.
AJ and
I see Jesse right there, and
there's Jesse.
And then and there's AJ. All right. Hi, AJ. All right, here we go.
AJ, we're going to call you Michael. Is that okay?
All right. So I'm going to start with Jesse. So Jesse is a model of responsibility. He's a calming influence in class. He has a great sense of humor, and his sense of responsibility is something that just radiates off of him. We've noticed that he has a great work ethic in class, and it's getting better by the day. If a fellow student ever needs help or is having trouble relaying information, Jesse is able to clarify. He comes to class on time and is ready to work. And if he's ever late or leaves class early, he is out with a wave so he doesn't disturb anybody. And he's just kind and friendly. His teacher also says that he leads quietly, but he does it very well. And on a principal note, I can just say that Jesse's always looking for ways to make the school a better place. During lunch, I've actually noticed that he goes around and picks up other people's trash and things that they leave behind. And he doesn't ever do it for recognition. He probably doesn't even know I've seen him doing that. But I have. And so, just to echo what his teacher said, he's a quiet leader, but he leads by example and by action. And for that, we are recognizing Jesse for the trait of responsibility.
Hey, good job, Jesse. That away. So you're going around picking up trash from other people. Is there a lot of that around the school?
Yeah.
Okay.
I gotta say, middle schoolers can sometimes be messy, but like I said, he's never drawn attention to himself. It's just if you kind of look over, it's like, hey, he's over there picking up trash and he wasn't even eating over there. And so he always does things to make the school a better place. So we really appreciate that.
We are happy to draw attention to Jesse and his his accomplishment today. So congratulations, Jesse, on winning the Do the Right Thing Responsibility Award, and we'll make sure you get your certificate as well. So congratulations.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. And then
And now you have AJ. That's Natalia. Is it Jovita or Jovita? Yes, both. Which one is? Oh wait, Mom came in and gave Jesse a kiss. That's going to be good on the film. That'll be great.
That'll be great. It's Jovita.
Jovita. AJ. Okay. Peter, have at it.
All right. So AJ is a positive role model. She also just so happens to be our student body president. She exemplifies responsibility. Her teachers describe her as driven, focused, and positive. Her leadership teacher told me that whenever she needs something done, AJ is a person that she can go to and count on having it done really well. Her other teachers, one of them said that she is responsible and a hardworking student, that her work is consistently completed with great effort, and it all is always done thoroughly and very timely. She takes positive feedback well and accepts and understands any suggestions without arguing. One of the things that impressed one of her teachers was that I guess she was out for a little bit of time, but when she came back, she had all of her work done except for 2 assignments, and she said, I will have those to you the next day. And even though she should have gotten 2 or 3 days to complete the work, she had it done the next day and it was done incredibly well. So just want to say that she is a very responsible student and definitely deserving of the award.
Hey, congratulations. AJ, so what is it like to be the student body president?
We haven't started doing our roles yet, but next week we have our first Congress meeting. So I'm really excited to be attending that as the student body president.
Terrific. Well, you can take over for one of us one of these days. Maybe you'll be on the council. So congratulations, DJ. And congratulations to all of our Do the Right Thing winners today. And you are the best in responsibility. So thank you so much, and thank you for joining our meeting. And we'll be sure to vote for you. Thank you, Mr. Fong.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Thank you so much again.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Wow, great students. Okay. All right. So we have. Oh, I see. We're going to do the presentation by Confire before we do the proclamations, Raina, today. Yes. Okay. So we'll go on to presentation by Confire Chief Terrence Carey. Item B. Still on mute, Chief.
All right, let me try this for a third time. Can you hear me now?
We can. Hi, Chief.
Oh, beautiful. Good evening. Can you see me?
We cannot.
All right. Well, that's on me, but I'll share my screen here in a minute. You probably don't want to see what I look like anyways, but good evening. This is great to follow those presentations. As a father of a first grade teacher, that's awesome that you do that and recognize those kids. That's good stuff. And I think the challenge for Jesse of picking up the garbage is a good challenge for all of us. So anyways, it's my pleasure to be here. My name is Terrence Carey, and I'm Assistant Chief with Contra Costa County Fire Protection District. I have a presentation, and as I've said in the past when I've done them, my goal is not death by PowerPoint. It's truly just a guide for us to have a discussion. And I would love it if you ask me questions throughout the presentation so we don't wait till the end, so I don't feel like I'm talking to myself. But I will share my screen here and let's see if we can get started. I was looking and just let me get there. All right. Are we in business there? Can you all see that?
Yes,
You're on. Yeah,
All
look
right.
good.
All right. I was looking at my notes, and it's hard to believe that the last time I talked with you folks was October of last year, but with COVID, and wildfires, it's time flies. So, anyways, really the focus of this presentation is wildfires and wildfire management, fire prevention, but really, I said this last time we talked, and I really want to stress this. We'll talk about wildfires, but I really want to encourage the citizens to make sure that they have a functioning smoke detector, that they check their smoke detector on a regular basis. And it's pretty easy nowadays. You know, they last 10 years, so put a date on it when you post it. I've been in the business a long time, and all the fatal fires have, except one that I've been to, all have a commonality to them, and that is either the smoke detector, batteries were removed, or there was no smoke detector. There was one fatality I went to where there was a working smoke detector, but she was an invalid on a second floor. So I bring that up as we talk about wildfire, but my goodness, that smoke detector, it truly does save lives, and I would encourage that messaging to go out. Okay, so to move on, in Clayton, Fire Station 11 is one of 26 fire stations of the Contra Costa County Fire Protection District that serves the city of Clayton. We'll talk about some of the additions to our organization, and I can talk about how that trickles down to Clayton and supports Clayton when a response comes in the city limits. As you're pretty much aware, this is another historic fire season. The active list of fires as of yesterday statewide are up there on the screen. The Dixie Fire approaching 1 million acres, just unheard of. And these mega fires of what we're calling them are just a new trend. I was up to the Dixie Fire. I spent 2 tours up there, 2 weeks each. And the division I was working in was a 20-mile division. Divisions are divided up alphabetically, so A through Z, and then they had to start the AA, BB, CC all the way around again. And it just shows the magnitude of these incidences. A little different up there in that their topography and vegetation is different than the city of Clayton. There's a lot of heavy timber, and which makes it very difficult to fight those fires. But that is a challenge throughout the state. It's stressing our resources because you have CAL FIRE taking care of the state responsibility area. You have U.S. Forest Service taking care of federal lands, and then you have local government supporting those operations. The system, honestly, is very strained. And as your fire department, our local government, our main responsibility is to make sure we have adequate resources to protect our jurisdiction, which we do, even when we send resources out to these larger incidences throughout the state. Looking at the drought conditions, I think we're somewhat aware of this, but when you look at this map of California and you look at that swath of brown and where it comes into Contra Costa County and specifically Clayton, and you attach that term exceptional drought. Really what that means is just things are tinder dry and ready to burn. And we'll talk about some things where the citizens can assist us so we don't have those incidences which become small incidents which become large incidences. As we know in our county, with the topography here, we have suburban areas. We have the what we call the WUI, which is the wildland urban interface, which you do have some of that obviously within the city of Clayton, where you have folks backed up to those hills, and things happen very quickly when you get into the wildland urban interface. So it's very imperative for us to get to the response quickly. Our goal within the California Fire Service is to hold fires at 10 acres or less, which is, you'll see a lot of resources moving for sometimes if you're on scene and you think, wow, this is a small fire, and look at all these resources they move. We start moving resources very at this time of year when we get elevated fire risk very aggressively, and that's built into our response matrix. So you'll get a different matrix for an outside fire, on the grasslands in February as you will in September or October. So just something to be aware of as the elected officials within Clayton and for the citizens. When you look at this this map and you zero in on the Clayton area and you see the extreme, just another reminder of, as I mentioned in the previous slide, of the extreme conditions that we're facing. And right now, September, October is just this is a critical time. Any questions so far? Okay, moving along. Just two examples of some local fires that we've had, and just pictures always worth 1,000 words. Is on the left, it was in Antioch. This was somebody who was shooting believe it or not, shooting fireworks off of their back deck. It ended up getting into the grasslands and then spreading into multiple apartments, and 16 folks were displaced. Again, that's something where we encourage people to quite frankly, just use common sense. And as we know, fireworks are illegal within Contra Costa County, number one, but number two is just thinking through what we're doing, whether it's, on a hot day at 3 p.m. going out and using a weed whacker is probably not the best, or is not the best course of action. The other one on the right-hand side, this was when you have a vegetation fire, it can be driven by geography and the winds. And if it's 100 degrees out, we have no winds and it's flatland, we're in good shape. But what we'll talk about this again in a little bit, but is when we get into a red flag like we just had, where you have a mix of winds and heat and topography, you can end up with something like this example in July in Antioch, where it was a wind-driven grass fire, which firefighters, we were aggressive. We got a lot of resources on it early, and we still lost 16 apartments. That's significant loss to those folks there, and upwards of 40 folks were moved out of their homes. So specifically Clayton, just some numbers for you to look at, 2020 versus 2021. 2020, we generally throughout the county had a pretty decent fire experience. Outside the county, we did not, as I touched on last year, but within the county, we did. And then you look at your Clayton numbers from last year, and then you compare them to this year. We're about on track to, maybe exceed that a little bit in some of the areas and stay neutral in others. But again, vegetation fires represent a considerable threat. And the illegal fireworks, we have not seen, just generally, a general statement here is we have not seen illegal firework use that we've seen throughout the county in other areas of the county in Clayton, which is a great thing. And I really, applaud our law enforcement partners and all the citizens of Clayton for following that edict. Looking in 2020 and our preparedness and moving forward, like I said, Contra Costa, we did okay last year. We had some significant vegetation fires, but not like we did in 2019. And if you can kind of remember back in October, which we're really approaching, we had a couple of shifts where we actually, which is unheard of, held basically all hands. No one went home, and all off-duty personnel came in because of the impending threat. And we had significant vegetation fires as well as structure fires within, I believe it was a 48-hour window. And we didn't see that in 2020. As we talked about, our goal is to hold vegetation fires at 10 acres or less. And we were pretty successful with that last year. But again, that's not something that we pat ourselves on the back. There's a little bit of luck there and a lot of help from the citizens with preemptive work around their structures, as well as calling us early and getting us out there. So I talked about some of the resources that we've added to our fire district. Fire Station 16 is in Lafayette. That was reopened. Fire Station 70 is out in San Pablo. That just opened within the last couple of months. We moved it, but we added personnel to that station. Fire Station 4, it was shuttered during the recession, and it's going to be reopened in 2022. And Fire Station 85 is replacing our existing Fire Station 85 under construction in Bay Point, and that's supposed to open in 2023. What's that matter to Clayton? What that matters is depth of resources within the organization. And we're able to move resources around, and we do that aggressively. And so although those stations and additions to the organization are not necessarily in Clayton, they do benefit Clayton as our fire district. Some other things that I would really like to trumpet, and I'll show you some cool pictures. Well, maybe not cool, but you might think they're cool, of some of these extra resources. Crew 12. Crew 12 is fire control workers. There's a crew of 12 personnel on a crew with 2 supervisors. And this year, we doubled it to 2 crews. Last year, they were only on duty 4 days a week. This year, they work 4 10s. And mainly they're young men and women, and they go out and they are wonderful. They cut hand lines. They come out and help us do overhauls. Say when the vegetation fire's out, they'll come in, they'll dig a line around the fire. And now this year we're on 7 days a week. It's just a force multiplier again. And that is something, if there's a vegetation fire, they're immediately dispatched to it. Fleet improvements to the fleet. Type 6 wildland fire engines. Your fire station in Clayton, you have a type 1, which is the big fire engine that you normally see on the streets. A type 3, which is a wildland type of engine. Type 6 is even smaller than that, and it's very mobile. And again, a great resource. Water tenders. We bought 2 additional new water tenders. What's a water tender? It just brings water to places where there's not fire hydrants. And I think we might have talked about that last year of some of the areas in your district. Somebody was asking about that. We will automatically dispatch those water tenders when we know we have an incident where there's it's lacking hydrants additional. In addition, we've already staffed 1 fire dozer, but this year we bought a second one. So we have 2 dozers. Again, another force multiplier to come in, cut lines. If we have a vegetation fire, it's threatening structures, they'll immediately come in and they'll cut a fire break or improve on an existing fire break around structures. The last 2 items is Conair 1. That's our helicopter relationship. You see a picture of it there with Reach Aircraft. We have 2 helicopters, one of which is used for fire observation, command and control of incidents, our eyes in the sky, as well as water dropping. And they are, it mentions hoist capable. That is something that they're training on. Takes quite a bit of training, and that's something that would help in the rural areas, especially up in Mount Diablo or some of your more rural areas right outside of Clayton and Marsh Creek. Lastly is pre-position of resources ahead of the fire. This one is really you folks in private enterprise are going to kind of chuckle at the common sense to this, but in years past, we know what's going to happen with the weather. We know when we're going to have red flag conditions. So Chief Carmen was our fire chief. He's retired. He and some of the other what we call metro chiefs, the 16 largest fire departments in the state, got together and said, we should have a means to be able to go, hey, there's going to be a fire, or excuse me, there's going to be red flag conditions in Contra Costa County tomorrow. We know it, and we have all the pertinent information. There should be a system in place. He went to the governor, got Governor Brown at the time to sign off on it to create a funding mechanism for that. And we have to go through a check system, and we apply. And it's very quick, and we apply, and the state will agree to reimburse us for resources to stage ahead of a fire. So, for example, we just had red flag. I don't even know what day was it, yesterday or the day before? I think maybe it was Sunday into Monday. We applied for that on Sunday afternoon. It was approved. By Sunday night, we had extra resources on duty available to respond to any incidences within the county. So just a great, to me, I think I'm really proud of our organization for participating in the development of that, as well as the state. And it's used throughout the state.
Hardin, may I ask a quick question?
Absolutely.
Where do those additional resources come from if our entire area is under a red flag warning?
That is a great question. Thanks for asking a question. I'm getting tired of hearing myself talk. Is what we do is all the agencies within the county, they poll each other and who can put out a resource. So what we'll do is we'll get personnel come in from overtime. So for example, you'll have Contra Costa County might put one engine up, Moraga Renda, San Ramon Valley Fire District, Richmond, and Clayton. I'm just drawing a blank on Richmond or whatever. You try to get 5 resources with a leader. So those resources are all banded together and they respond together to the incidences. So it's done within the county. If we're tapped and we don't have the resources for it, we can get resources from other adjoining areas. In 2019, we pulled resources out of Los Angeles to come up and pre-position here. And we've done the same thing for them. So a very dynamic system.
Thank you.
Okay, beyond just the boots on the ground and fire engines and other things like that, what are the things that are we trying to do to be better prepared and deal with the wildfire potentials? First off is great tool throughout the state, and it's actually, I've seen them throughout the Western United States. There's been an aggressive implementation of cameras out throughout the state. And so you have to have authorization to get on the cameras, but say a call comes in Marsh Creek, we can take the camera from Mount Diablo, and before our crews are even on scene, we can turn the camera and point it in that direction and see what kind of smoke column we have, what the conditions are. So it's actually, for lack of a better term, it's just really cool. And it's a great tool. But also beyond that, and it's not mentioned here, but we also have the fly fires. And I get throughout the state numerous times a day, whenever there's a start, doesn't even matter how big it is, we'll get drone coverage from that, and we can look at it, and it'll give us the potential of, if there's no water put on that fire and nobody does anything, what's the fire size going to be in an hour? Where is it going to be at in 2 hours, 3 hours, etc.? So a little subset of the network cameras. Next off is the tools that our crews use. Is Tablet Command is a system that we use for dispatch. One of our retired firefighters developed it. And it's basically, it tracks all of our units on a response. We can keep track of them. We can look at the incident. It's got a myriad of tools. As I mentioned, I was on the Dixie fire. I was pulling up maps off of that Tablet Command. So our crews are really situationally aware of what's going on throughout the entire district. So something that pops out in Clayton, somebody that's covering Station 70 out in San Pablo is going to be aware of it. Pulse Point, I think many of your citizens have Pulse Point, maybe some of you do, that's another tool. And then the National Weather Service notifications. We're very tied into weather on a daily basis. Weather is published, because we have crews out west in West County, Central County, and East County, 3 different types of weather all in the same day. So we publish that for our crews. Next up and last is, and this is in partnership with law enforcement. Law enforcement is truly the boss on evacuations, but a tool has been developed. It's a software program called Zone Haven. Basically, the entire county has been gridded. And so say in Clayton, if we had a vegetation fire and in unified command with law enforcement, we said, hey, we need to evacuate this area, we can look at the Zone Haven software, click on that and say, hey, we need to evacuate Clayton, zone 11. That is then sent to the community warning system in the sheriff's office. They have they overlay the phone numbers for that. We'll call the people that live in that area and give them directions on where to evacuate. It's just a tool that is much more efficient than I don't want to say the old days because it still kind of goes on, but is, hey, we need to evacuate the corner of walk and don't walk over to 5th Street up to 10th Street. This is just a better and more efficient way to do this. And again, law enforcement, they're the experts, and we work with them on evacuations. Okay, resident involvement. This is a great tool that you can access. It talks about preparedness and evacuations. Where you can find the electronic version is if you go to the Contra Costa County Fire District's website, you click on the left side, which will have fire prevention, and then this will be one of the choices. It's a great tool. It's, I want to say, about 20 pages, and it's got some great ideas and great guidance for commercial owners, for residential owners, and for everybody in between. So we really encourage you to take a look at that. Again, Contra Costa County Fire District's website. Go to the left side, hit fire prevention, and then you'll go in and there'll be a choice under there, and you'll see this this guide.
Chief, could you give us the handle? How do we get to the website?
You want me to give you the link, correct?
The link, yeah. What is the
yes.
the link, the address?
Yeah, I'll get that. How about I get that to you, Mr. Mayor? Is that good? Can I get that to you later?
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. Kind of getting to the end here, just as I talked about how it's a joint effort between the fire district and the citizens. It really is important for our citizens. They hear it, and I know sometimes we don't listen to it, but is taking care of your buildings around your clearing space around, if possible, up to 300 feet, thinking through the unexpected. When a fire comes through and it's moving fast, if you have trees overhanging your house, your gutters are full of debris, dry grass around your house, and you have a wood shake roof, it's really difficult for us. We need help on that. We need people to think ahead, clear out debris around their homes, and really give us a fighting chance to save your structure. It's a real gut punch when we lose people's homes and businesses to fire, and when it moves fast in a vegetation fire, it's moving really fast. And I know a lot of people haven't experienced that, but I would just urge the citizens to expect the unexpected. And that doesn't mean live in fear, but just really be aggressive in your planning. And you really want to start thinking about that during your winter time, so you're prepared and everything's cleaned up, ready to go by April, May. And here's just a good picture of when you have defensible space. You look at these homes. These I guess 9 or 8 homes there. When you have fire burning up a slope like that, it moves awful fast coming to those homes. So if you can give us a green belt behind there, worst case, we might burn up your fence in the back of your residence, but that's easily replaced. But that's where I was talking about fire. You have to expect that beyond the fire just burning up to you, it's embers that are burning ahead of the fire. If you get a lot of wind on a fire, it can bump embers out a half mile, and so that's really difficult to stay ahead of when it's what we call bumping structures. Okay, any questions?
Excellent presentation. Thank you. Yes, Holly, you have a question.
I do. I have one more question. I'm sure that some of the guests that are on the line might have as well, regarding the evacuations and the zone haven technology that you have. Is it about a 30-minute or less warning that the residents would have to be able to evacuate, and it tells them where to go? We don't have to get into all of the weeds with it. I'm just a quick.
That is a great question. I don't have that answer for you, but I will tell you that it depends on, it's situational dependent. I just want to be honest with you. It's really going to depend on the situation. For those folks that in that fire, the last picture I just showed you, where fires bump into residents, they don't have much time at all. But if we, like I said, in unified command, which is we call it the incident command system, in a vegetation fire in your jurisdiction, we're going to have ourselves, we're going to have law enforcement, your police department with us, and we'll be in unified command making those decisions together, as well as we'll probably have a CAL FIRE representative because you're surrounded by the state responsibility area. So we'll make those decisions quickly, and as quick as they can turn it, we will get that information out through the community warning system. Again, also we probably request, I don't want to get into the law enforcement side of it, but I'd imagine they'll also go out and make contact with people as they can.
Sure, and then also common sense would just come into play. If it's close, you obviously leave, but
yeah, sorry on that, but as we know, common sense isn't always common.
Yeah.
And
yes.
And I will tell you from experience, I really get it where people want to stay, and they've seen people, hey, I'm going to stay on my roof with a garden hose, and God bless you. I get it, but you know what? Don't do that. Just get out. And unfortunately, what happens is you see things on the news, and somebody says they saved their house, but we also don't show the other people that fire bumped them, and they either got injured or put us in harm's way or caused us to go get them. When it's just better to have an evacuation plan. And thank you for bringing that. That's a great segue to another point, is really think ahead. How are you going to get out? Where are you going to go to? Are you up on the hill and you have one way down? Well, is there another way down? Think through. It's like the old movie theater. Look around for multiple exits. We'll do the same thing out of your house and talk about that. Where are you going to go to? And are you going to go down to the park and meet up there? Things like that. So. Thank you for asking that question.
No, thank you.
Anybody else have a question, Jim?
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank Chief Carey for the very fine presentation, and I've had the pleasure of working with Contra Costa County Fire back to the lean days when we had to when the fire district had to reduce the hours at Station 11, and I worked with, at the time, Battalion Chief Longesh, now Assistant Chief, on assisting and developing a plan to restore the full service to Station 11. In fact, that's when Chief Carmen came on and really put together a fantastic plan that helped restore service there, but not only there, but also to expand the fire service throughout the county. And ConFire has also been very involved in some of our local events. In fact, they brought the command truck out to the one of our events, the barbecue. And we hope that maybe in the future, when all these events get back into a more normal operation, that we'll be able to bring out some of the equipment that you have on display there that people can take a look at. Not only the command vehicle, because that is very impressive, which is used, of course, when there's a major event, but also some of the other gear that you've added. I've been working, just to give you an update, Chief, with the Morgan Territory Community Association. Number one, their neighbors, and number two, anything that happens out there on Morgan Territory Road and the inclusive area out there. If something major happens out there, there's a high probability that it ultimately could roll over the hill and come down and affect Clayton. In fact, in past major fires, we've had to help find places to house the animals that many of the people have out there, horses, dogs, anything. And it was a real challenge to do that. But again, neighbors helping neighbors. One of the things that I came up against, and I wanted to just get your thought on it. I know Station 11 acts as a backup to both East County Fire and Cal Fire when there's an incident or when they cannot directly respond themselves. And I've been working with out there and the water district because we discovered a couple of the fire hydrants out there that have been locked. And there's good reason that those fire hydrants were locked. People were utilizing the fire hydrants for illegal purposes, for getting water, and so they had to put those locks on it. But I want to make sure that you are aware of it. And I know leadership there at Clown Fire is that you have the appropriate keys in order to make sure that if you're called out there, that you have access to the fire hydrants.
Councilman Diaz, thanks for your comments, and I'll share your kind words with Chief Gage. He's still on the job and he's in charge of training, and I appreciate it and appreciate your comments. A couple things there. First off is yes, we're aware of those hydrants. Yes, we're not pleased that hydrants are locked, but yes, we understand that that the necessity of why they're being locked, and yes, we have means to get into the hydrants. And then I would echo your comments about when things happen out in Morgan Territories and Marsh Creek Road. Your city has been very kind, and you're right. It was beyond just housing animals. It was, I believe, the park there. Was where your police officers came out and helped us find a spot to bed down some firefighters overnight, because it was a multiple day operation. So that was a great collaboration between the city of Clayton, the city of Clayton Police Department, and the firefighters, and we appreciate that. One additional comment you made about East Contra Costa County is, and maybe at the next presentation it'll be done or almost done, but the board of directors for both fire districts have approved an annexation where we, meaning Contra Costa County, will annex East Contra Costa County Fire. That process has started. They'll be working through the LAFCO mechanisms, etc. Our target date is April 1st, but reality is the ultimate goal is to get it done before fire season next year. So one of the things that you'll see as part of that is they are obviously understaffed there. And so we are looking to open 2 of their stations immediately to move them up to 5 stations once they come under our umbrella, which again adds depth to the entire fire district. And, that also trickles down to the city of Clayton. So that's exciting for the citizens of East County.
It is.
Also, I know that's been a long time coming for for you folks who have been involved in it. And we're excited about it. We've had a work group with their leadership and our leadership, and we're on bi-weekly meetings now, moving the needle forward, because there's lots of things to work through when you're merging or annexing houses. But they'll come under our umbrella, and they'll be part of Contra Costa County Fire. So again, we're excited about that, and hopefully that'll provide more depth to the.
Yeah, and I just want to encourage that effort, and I know that through your leadership, and of course not Jeff Carmen, but now
Chief Bouchard.
Chief Bouchard, yeah, but Chief Bouchard has just taken up the reins and just run with these things, and it's very encouraging to see what progress you folks are making out there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Anybody else have any questions? Excellent presentation. And I'm glad that this is on video for people to see later on that aren't on our meeting today. We'll certainly promote that, and you'll get us the website address as well, so people can get the pamphlets and whatever else, whatever information they can.
Absolutely, Mayor. I'll get that to you. And remember, smoke detectors, smoke detectors, smoke detectors.
What was that? Wait, what was that? You froze up there.
They always tell me 3 times. You hear it 3 times, you'll remember it. So,
well, thank you.
I don't have a question, but I just want to say thank you for all that you do. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
All right. Have a good evening.
Appreciate your presentation, Chief. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chief, if you could stop sharing your screen, that would be terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. All right. Moving on now to the proclamation declaring September 15th to October 15th as Hispanic Heritage Month in the city of Clayton. And I will read part of this proclamation. Okay. September 15th, October 15th, Hispanic Heritage Month. Whereas Hispanic Heritage Week was first proclaimed by President Lyndon B. Johnson in 1968 as a presidential proclamation, and whereas in 1988, the commemorative week was expanded to a month September 15th to October 15th, also by legislation signed by President Ronald Reagan. And whereas September 15th was chosen as the starting point for a commemoration as the anniversary of independence of 5 Hispanic countries, Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, who all declared independence in 1821. And whereas Mexico, Chile, and Belize celebrated their independence days on September 16, 18, and 21, respectively. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month was first proclaimed by President George H.W. Bush on September 14, 1989. And whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is a time for the United States and Hispanic who served in the armed forces. And whereas 61 people of Hispanic heritage have been awarded the Medal of Honor, 2 were presented to members of the Navy, 13 members of the Marine Corps, and 46 members of the Army. Now, therefore, I, Carl Wolf, Mayor, and on behalf of the entire Clayton City Council, proclaim September 15 to October 15 as Hispanic Heritage Month in Clayton, and I call on the observance to the attention of all of our citizens. And we are right in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month right now. All right. And now we have item D, which is proclamation declaring September 17 as Constitution Citizenship Day in Clayton. And I'll read that. Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. Whereas on September 17, 1787, the founding fathers signed the U.S. Constitution. And whereas for the last 234 years, the Constitution has served as the supreme law of the land, and whereas the Constitution, along with the Bill of Rights and other amendments, define our government and guarantee our rights. And whereas each year on September 17th, Americans celebrate Constitution Day and Citizenship Day. And whereas, in addition, September 17 to 23 is also recognized as Constitution Week. Now, therefore, I, Carl Wolf, Mayor, and on behalf of the Clayton City Council, do hereby proclaim September 17th as Constitution Day and Citizenship Day in the city of Clayton, California, and ask for our citizens to reflect on the rights and responsibilities of citizenship and what it means to be a U.S. citizen. Right. Moving on now to item number 6, reports. Let's start with our city manager and staff reports.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Just one item to let you know that the appeal that the city filed on our RENA allocation for housing numbers has been set for hearing in front of the ABAG Administrative Committee. That hearing will be held this Friday, the 24th. And we should know, hopefully, a preliminary decision from the committee that day. They probably will not make a final decision until the very end of October, as they have 5 or 6 days of hearings to conclude to get through all of the appeals. And with that, I don't have anything else for this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Now we'll go to our city council reports. Jim, you want to start today?
Certainly, be happy to. I've been working with a number of our citizens on a variety of issues, including some vandalism and marking up of the benches and so forth around the Peacock Creek area, and that is being attended to by both city maintenance, and the police department is doing some increased observations and reporting on that, and making sure that that gets put behind us. On the 26th, attended the CBCA open house over at Endeavor Hall. We had a concert on the 28th, which included a band called Forever Rod, and interesting band. Rod Stewart shall be ever. Anyway, it was a good evening. And by the way, I have to say that in our past, these 2 concerts that we had since we had our last city council meeting, including the one on the 11th where we had the very wonderful ceremony with the Post 1525 coming out and doing a great tribute to the memory of all those at 9/11. We had a packed house, if they use that term. And over the last two concerts, we've been able to raise each concert in excess of $4,000 to $5,000. And I commend Howard Geller and his team for doing that. In fact, the last concert was well over $5,000. It's just amazing to see the support we got from people that came out to those events, and also attended a very interesting. For those of you that don't remember, Lou Gernhardt. Lou passed away just after the COVID and the pandemic hit last year, and unfortunately, we're not able to celebrate his life. And that happened on the 12th over at Center Concord. So it was very well attended, and it was a great tribute to Lou, who did a lot for us and the CBCA and all the various projects and festivals and so forth that we put on. I do want to make mention, I'm sure a number of people in the city discovered that we had a power outage on Monday, the 13th of September, which started approximately at 4:45, but it was, still light, so people were continuing to do things. And I didn't realize it until I had to come to City Hall to do something around 8:30. And when I did so, City Hall was all lit up and you could get in and get out. And then, as my usual habit is, I'd like to drive downtown just to see what's going on. Pitch dark in downtown Clayton. That was the most eerie feeling I've ever seen, going down Center Street, going down Main Street, no lights, all businesses shuttered and what have you. It was incredible. But I want to commend the Clayton Police Department. We were fortunate to have the two senior members of the police department, both Sergeant Rich Ania and Sergeant Tim Marchute, on duty. As soon as that hit, they were in contact with, just so people didn't know, they were in contact with PG&E, and through social media kept everybody updated on what was transpiring. And also, as power was beginning to be restored around 10:30 that evening, which started over in the Regency area, moved over to Dana Hills and so forth, and finally downtown. In fact, the only light downtown, interestingly enough, was the clock that was lit. So it's got some sort of internal power, I guess. But through their active participation in monitoring the activities, and people were not stopping for the stop signs. And you're supposed to stop at a stop sign when there's no traffic signal functioning. So they gave them a little education, no citations, but a little education in stopping them. Fortunately, no traffic collisions and no burglaries during that outage, which finally got restored sometime the next day. So I want to commend them and for keeping the citizens well appraised over social media. Had my usual meetings with the city manager, and that's it. Thank you.
I think that clock was running because Jim Warburton was inside on a treadmill. That's funny that the clock was on. Thank you, Jim. Okay, Holly.
Thank you, Mayor. Pretty brief. I also attended the CBCA mixer that was on the 28th of August. It was also a membership drive, and we were trying to get more members to join. I spoke to Cheryl Willis that weekend regarding the Little Free Anna Racist Library and the placement at a private residence. And I will be in touch as we're working on a date for a groundbreaking ceremony. And as soon as we have that nailed down, I will let everyone know. On the 31st, speaking of Citizenship Day, I was able to participate in Antonio Tapia's citizenship. He's a new citizen to the country. And so there was a party for him at Marissy's restaurant. So I was there with quite a few other residents celebrating that. On the 3rd, I met with the MIG consultant to prep for our meeting next week with the Planning Commission, as we all did. On the 14th, I met with the Library Foundation. There was a Library Foundation meeting. They will be having a book sale again, and that will be October 15th through the 17th. They do need a little bit of help if people are available on the 10th, and that's to move table setups into the library. That'll probably be starting about 9:30 in the morning on the 11th. It's Columbus Day, so I know some people might have the day off. I know that there's no school, so I told them I'd try to find some high school kids who might not have school that day. So if you know of anybody that you can send their way, they could take the extra hands. They have the Boy Scouts. They said that we're going to be moving the books on the 10th and the 17th to move out the extra ones. And they needed some help passing out flyers. So if there's anyone that's available, if you belong to a church and you can, and if you can stop by the library and post that up in your church, they will also be going into the local restaurants and around downtown, and I'll put some in City Hall as well. What else? Let's see. On the 15th, I had my call with for the planning for the ARPA funding that we're going to go over tonight. But there was one other additional piece. Oh, just taking calls from residents regarding unsafe issues over by Endeavor Hall. There are some vines that are hanging down near the ground, and I alerted the city manager as well as Jim Warburton to that today, so that can be taken care of, as well as some protruding vines that need to be pruned back by the library so that doesn't get into the gutters. And it goes exactly to what Chief Carey was describing about cutting back things that are near buildings. So that's my report, Mayor. Thanks.
Thank you. I remember that request when I was on the Library Foundation as well. Okay, how about Jeff?
Yeah, I guess it's been like a month. So over that time, I think we all met with multiple consultants, which, so lots of consultant talk about housing and ARPA. That's going to be fun. And then also, I had a brief conversation with city manager about the community rating system as part of the National Flood Insurance Program, and whether or not we are participants. It's a way that potentially folks who are in areas that are designated as floodplains and are required to have flood insurance, they could lower their rates if the city takes certain actions. Asked that we could explore what level of effort is necessary to do that, because it's all a balance of how much work we're willing to do and how many people are impacted and what the potential rate decrease could be. But there's, hopefully we'll get information on that and then we can report out. I think there was an article in the paper about Concord's participation, and it's the effect of lowering rates for folks that were impacted in those flood zones. Obviously they have a much bigger area and a little bit more resources to do that work. So we'll see if anything comes with that, but potential. And that's about it. Actually, wait, there's one other thing. So as part of all of us who live in Clayton, I talk to folks every once in a while, and I find that people are surprised that this is true. But as one of the terms of our contract with Republic Services as a city that we have is that you, at no charge, you are allowed to have an extra recycle bin. So if you are like us, who gets a lot of things delivered from Amazon, and you have a lot of cardboard to dispose of that overflows your bin every week, at no charge, they will send you out a second bin and take it for free every week. So just as a public service announcement, you can have extra recycling so that you don't have a stack of cardboard that creates a fire risk next to your house. And you can do the same thing for green waste as well. You can have 2 of those. You can have 2 recycle bins, no charge. If you want more garbage, they will charge you. So just a PSA, I use it every week. That's it.
Thank you very much. That's good to know. All right. And Peter.
That is awesome. Thanks, Jeff. I first want to give a shout out to Danny Hill's swim team. Now, I was an Otter parent for 10 years, and my daughters had a chance to go to county, and we got a chance to swim against the other swim teams from across Contra Costa County. This year, Danny Hill's swim team won county, and that is a huge accomplishment, and they represent Clayton. It's the epitome of community. When you look at Danny Hill swim teams, it's parents and kids putting a lot of effort in on every Saturday and all throughout the summer. And they worked hard and they actually won county, and that's an incredible accomplishment. And they deserve to be acknowledged. I apologize for not doing that earlier, but that came to my attention. I just wanted to give you guys a shout out because I know what an effort that was. And thank you, coaches, parents, and swimmers. That was awesome. As part of my role on the Contra Costa County Hazardous Materials Commission, we had a chance to present our findings to the county supervisors on sea level rise and what the potential economic impacts are for the infrastructure and the economy, given the sea level rise in our proximity to the bay. I also went to the CBCA open house. It is a good organization, and we are trying to attract members and so we can continue doing what we do. Now, yeah, it was consultant time. We did talk to the big consultant, and we did talk to the ARPA consultant. But one of the things with regard in the vein of the conversation with the mid-commerce consultant and the housing element, I also had a chance to listen to a video of the Planning Commission and their conversation about the downtown center specific plan and conversation about use. And I just thought it was a great conversation. And it's for those of you who are interested in that, I would be encouraged to listen. It's going into what we're doing in downtown and the housing element, what we're getting into. This whole thing is going to happen in the next 6 to 9 to 12 months is about understanding who we are and what we want to be and how we're going to deal with the housing numbers that are coming forward. So that was a good start of the conversation, and there's going to be a lot more going on. And I encourage you to get on the website and get involved with those conversations. I was involved with the mayor's conference, but one of the things that happened, you'll hear in the news is something that's happening regarding SB 9 and SB 10. Mayor Wolf was in conversation with our Assemblyperson Grayson, and I was in conversation with our Senator Glazer about these two bills that were put through. Senator Glazer, to his credit, stuck by his word and voted no against SB 9. Unfortunately, it passed. And but he did. I just wanted to put it out there. He voted against it because he knew that was a bane to local control. And he did stick his neck out and vote against it. SB 10 did pass, and again, that's unfortunate as well. But that leaves us fairly in our hands as city council members in the future, whether or not we want to do anything with that. I also want to say I followed up with a lot of small businesses in downtown. I talked to Larry Love again about his situation. I really appreciated his conversation, and I'm looking forward to seeing how these funds can help our businesses and those people who have sweat their own equity and their own time into serving Claytonians in our town. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Peter. Well, I too had a meeting with Larry Love, and we appreciate that he was on our last meeting. Got a chance to sit down and have coffee with him and get the lay of the land when it comes to small business owners and business owners in Clayton. I have a couple more meetings set up with others as well. But the ARPA funding is going to be very important to those businesses, and I'm glad that as a council we've come together to decide to support them as a priority. And of course, I met with all the consultants that you all met with, and that was fun. And I met with our city manager, and I also signed 8,000 checks. My arm is like this now because I signed so many. I attended the National League of Cities Mayors Roundtable for U.S. mayors, and that was quite interesting. They were also talking about ARPA funds and how cities, big and small, are using those funds. So it was very educational for me to sit in on that. Some very knowledgeable people, and of course, the mayor attended the mayor's conference. Our mayor's conference, the Contra Costa Mayor's Conference. There won't be any mayor's conferences in person in 2021, they tell me. And I attended a memorial for Rory Richmond. Rory Richmond passed away a while ago, and he was the member of the Historical Society and the Garden Club, and of course he ran the barbecue cook-off and had a great memorial. His partner over at the in Walnut Creek at the Gardens, and it was really quite impressive. I got a chance to speak there. I got to present a proclamation to another Eagle Scout, Dylan Lynch from Clayton. The court was held in Walnut Creek, so I got a chance to meet up with him and his family and to present a proclamation to him. So I think that's 4 now from Clayton, 3 or 4 from Clayton this year. I know only 8% of the scouts become Eagle Scouts, so that's pretty impressive. So congratulations to that young man. Let me see if there's anything else real quick. The newspaper article. There was a mistake in the newspaper in the Pioneer. I want to correct I've corrected it everywhere, except now I want to do it in public. That Dana Ayers is our community development director. Okay, and Catherine Korshak is our new finance director. Those were transposed in the paper. So I want to apologize to them, but to welcome them to Team Clayton. And I'm sure that Raina has a big sigh of relief because they're here. And then I got a chance to meet with the CBCA sponsorship committee. Very optimistic for 2022 that those festivals are going to come back, and looking for big sponsors. There's a lot of big things to come. So I'm very excited about the possibilities that are coming up for 2022. And finally, as Jim mentioned, there's a vandalism problem up in Peacock Creek where I live at the benches, the overlook benches. There's been some trouble up there, and I'm working with Raina and the chief, with our police chief, to come up with some solution for that. So as Jim said, hopefully we can put that behind us. And that is my report for today. And then Jim and I are going tomorrow to Sacramento for the Cal Cities meeting. Okay, moving on now to item number 7, public comment on non-agenda items. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we will open the public comment to non-agenda items right now. Janet, do we have anyone that would like to take part?
Mayor Wolf, at this time, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Okay, I don't want to shock anybody in case anybody's in the weeds, needs to put their hand up if you want to speak. Going once, going twice. Okay.
Oh, I have a hand that just went up.
Aha. Okay.
Roy, as I promote you to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone, you will have 3 minutes to speak.
Roy, you're mute. There we go. We can't see you, but maybe we can hear you. Not yet. Roy, are you there? You're the only one with your hand up, Roy, so we can't move on to someone else. Janet, are we unable to?
I'm not sure what's going on. I do show Roy as unmuted.
Yes, we see that.
And I wasn't able to promote him to panelist, but I was allowing him to speak as an attendee.
Yeah, it is showing that he was able to speak.
It appears that he's not been moved out of the, the list to move into the talking area or the participant.
Yes, for some reason, I'm not able to promote him to a panelist, but I am able to unmute him and allow him to speak.
He's there now.
Roy, are you there? Come in, Roy. Houston, we have a problem. Okay, so is there a call in that Roy can maybe get on a number?
If Roy would like to call in, he can dial 925-673-7304, and I can put him on speaker.
673-7304, Roy.
That is correct.
Call now. Operators are standing by. It's a PBS pledge drive all of a sudden. Okay, well, I don't think we're going to be able to get Roy. Is he calling in at all, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I haven't received a phone call from Roy yet.
Okay, well, maybe we can come back to Roy later on if he's able to get in. In the meantime, we'll close the public comment now, and his hand went down there. Okay, we'll close the public comment. Oh, you did that? You did. Okay. So we'll close the public comment now, and we'll see if Roy can come back to us a little bit later on if we need to. Move on now to public hearings. We have none. And now our action items. Excuse
Mayor
me.
Wolf, I hate to interrupt you, but my phone is ringing. So hold on just a moment.
Okay, good. Good. We can reopen it for him if he's able to get in. Roy, are you there?
All right, Mayor Wolf, I have Roy on the phone.
Yeah, can you hear me?
We can hear. You got two things going. I think you got to shut down one thing because you got two things going here. Got an echo going.
Yeah, let me just do that.
Hello.
Okay, is that better? I don't know.
Yes,
Okay, great. Okay.
you're on.
I kind of joined the meeting late here, and but I did get the reports from you, all of you. And let's just be quick here. Anyway, what's running through my head is that, you know, it was hot, you know, to the city, so to speak. Yes, because I guess part of most of the presentation.
I'm sorry. Roy. I'm sorry. I'm not. Is anybody else having the same trouble I am? I can't really understand.
No, I got the same problem.
Roy,
Can you understand now better?
there you go. There you go.
Okay, good. Okay, yeah, I've got, I don't know, some tech problems here. I don't know why, but I do. Maybe because I don't, you know, I'm not on these meetings that often. Anyway, what I'm calling about is that I listened to the fire report, missed most of it, but my concern is that, or my thinking is, what's hot in the city? You know, what's going on with the town, right? And a big deal is simply SB 9 and 10. Had very little information, honestly, from all of you, and altogether, I don't see it as being a high price. It's not being treated in my mind anyway. I'm just reacting here, and maybe you're going to deal with it later, but it doesn't seem to be given the priority it deserves. And there's a lot of issues around that, right? And then so I then asked if I back up and I say, okay, who in the staff here is a subject matter expert on SB 9 and 10? And whether it's permanent staff or it is council staff or even the planning commission, you know, who's going to be an expert on that, right? And then I heard that, you know, all you met with consultants. Okay, I really did not get a feel. It's like, okay, I'm just being blunt here, right? So what? So you met with them. So what was the purpose? What was the outcome? You know, if you met with them, you know, I'm looking at it from a you know, as a community member, and I'm seeking, you know, information from all of you, and in particular from you, you know, Carl Wood. So I'm just kind of at a loss, right? And I didn't get anything really something meaningful in those, you know, overall. And I'm being perhaps overly critical, but I don't think so. I need information. The community needs information. Fire is good. SB 9 is hot. Where are we with that? We saw the debacle with the Olivia project, right? And it was a debacle. And the planning commission, and also with the actual council itself, there seems to be a disconnect. It's like, okay, the planning commission does what they do, And then the council, I don't see the council in the loop on that. And so, and what were the oversight? Where were the checks and balances? And it's like, oops, there was a mess up, right? And then I see the votes that go in, and I think 3 of you voted to prolong the situation. For the life of me, I don't get it. I don't understand that, okay? And 2 of you voted again. And I think that was good. There was so much time and resources being spent on that project. And the gentleman where is he, right? And so it's a debacle. So anyway, I'm being critical because I like this town. I love this town. But it needs to be given the priority it deserves with respect to the SB 910. Where are we? What are you doing? What's going to happen? Who are the subject matter experts? If we got consultants and staff, if that's their job or duty, pay it. This is Frank or Smith, whoever, I don't know. They own it. Or if there's full-time staff, who owns it? And full-time staff, please do the due diligence in these projects so that when they get handed over to the planning commission, that I just don't, I'm having difficulty understanding how that thing fell between the cracks, that whole project. Anyway, I'll stop there. So I'm I'm being critical, but my expectation, I have high expectations of all of you, and I'd like to see that happen. And I say that in a positive sense for the town of Clayton, for the community members of Clayton, right? Okay, anyway, that's what I wanted to comment on. Thank you.
Thank you, Roy. Well, let me just quickly, I wrote about SB 9 in 2 different pioneers. SB 9 and SB 10. There's SB 8. Those are been signed by the governor now. Those were state initiatives that we were all against on the council. We've had extensive meetings, extensive enough with both Senator Glazer and Assemblymember Grayson. Unfortunately, those, aside from some slight amendments, those wound up passing. So we'll have to see how those go down the road. Nothing's going to change immediately, but we're going to be, I'm sure we're going to be hit with a lot of conversation with regard to these coming forward. And as far as the consultants go, just so you know, we've just preliminarily met with the consultants that they're going to actually help us with various projects going down the road. We just met with them preliminarily to start setting things up. And as far as the Planning Commission and the council, as far as synergy is concerned, just so you know, we have a meeting coming up on September the 28th, a joint meeting coming up to discuss some things going forward with regard to our housing needs. So we're working as hard as we can and as fast as we can, and hopefully you'll continue to keep an eye on us. So thank you. All right. So now,
can I add one comment?
Yes, of course.
So SB 9 in the Senate passed 28-7. In the House, whatever we call it here, it was 45-19.
Yeah, not all that close.
It was not close.
No.
I mean, our representative in the legislature, Grayson, voted in favor of both 9 and 10, so that's pretty freaking terrible. And
he actually voted no. He actually voted no on 9 in the final.
I see his name under yes.
Well, that's
maybe is that an older one? I see it as 826 to vote yes, but I'm looking at it right now.
Yeah, his final vote was no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe the California Legislative Information website is off, but in any case, the number was not close. So I mean, I guess Roy, when you ask what's going on at the city, nothing. We can't do anything about it because the legislature has a supermajority in both houses and the governors. So if you want something different, you got to vote for different people. That's pretty much it. SB 10 had wider margins. It was not close. So, that's the way it rolls.
No, I agree. I agree with you, Jeff. It's a tough situation, and we're going to have to deal with now. But anyway, we try to be as transparent as we can in these things and try to get the information out. And we did as what we could do as a small city. We even went in with other cities on these things. Even Cal Cities was against it. So, but anyway. Okay, so we have no other public comment, do we, Janet? Well,
Mayor Wolf, I do not have any other
okay.
hands raised.
So
for public comment.
we'll reclose the, reseal the public comment, close that, and move on now to action items. Item A is approve an upgrade to audio-visual equipment in Hoyer Hall in amount of $40,000. And we are going to go, who's doing, city manager is going to do the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. So the item in front of you this evening has a couple of components. The recommendation is to approve an upgrade in the audiovisual equipment in Hoyer Hall for approximately $40,000 and appropriate funding from the Comcast Public Education and Government Access grant funds that the city receives on a regular basis. We receive about $15,000 a year. We actually have quite a balance in that account as we haven't used it significantly. It's about $140,000. So this would leave us still with about $100,000. And then the second component is regarding kind of the future of meetings for the next several months at least. First, to talk about the AV equipment. Essentially, all of the AV equipment that is in the proposal that you see in your council packet is needed for improved functioning in Hoyer Hall, regardless of whether we ever decide to have hybrid meetings. It's broken into three categories. The first is network. Our network connections have never been terrific and they need and they need improvement. So this is a strategy for us without figuring out a way to get fiber very expensively all the way to Hoyer Hall, a way for us to have more redundancy across signals so that we don't lose connectivity so easily. The second piece is a video piece. Our video equipment, our projection equipment is all very old and really is not up to the current capabilities. As we look to do things like potentially closed captioning, or whether we look to do any kind of graphics on the screen that would allow us to provide additional information, or even to really see presentations in a better way. We just haven't had the equipment to do that. The third piece is the audio piece. Our audio equipment is old and crummy, as I understand it. I have not used it since we have not had a meeting in Hoyer Hall since I've been here. But I understand that that's been a conversation amongst the council for some time. And we're looking to upgrade that audio equipment. Of the $40,000, there's approximately maybe $2,000 that is really just additional equipment that would facilitate us having hybrid meetings. The other equipment is all needed for improved functioning when we return to Hoyer Hall. So that's the first part of the item in front of you this evening. The second component is the governor's current executive order, as is referenced in our intro video that we're going to need to change, expires on September 30th. The legislature just passed and the governor signed AB 361, which took effect immediately, but essentially after October 1st, puts in place ongoing provisions through January of 2024 to continue some, but not all of the Brown Act suspensions that have been in place under the executive orders. There are a couple of key differences in AB 361. A couple of them we're already in compliance with in terms of how we publicize access to the virtual meetings and the fact that we allow real-time commenting already. Some councils never implemented real-time commenting via their virtual platforms. They required all comments to be submitted in advance. That will no longer be allowed, but we were already in compliance with those provisions. The other major provision, the ability to hold these virtual meetings depends on a couple of things. One is a gubernatorial declaration of a state of emergency. In addition to that, once every 30 days, there needs to be a local, essentially, confirmation of that and a statement of findings about why it is appropriate for the local government to continue to meet in a virtual fashion. And so that's something that would need to be done on an ongoing basis to the extent that we continue to meet virtually. The legislation describes that in terms of the findings, that a recommendation or a requirement by a local official, such as our public health officer, that recommends against having in-person meetings or recommends, significant restrictions on those. That is part of the findings that we would be asked to make. We have received direction from Dr. Chris Farnatano, who is our county health officer, that virtual meetings are still strongly recommended at this point in Contra Costa County. Although our numbers are getting better, they are still not great. If there is a move toward an in-person meeting, that all of the requirements in terms of barriers and social distancing and masking and all of that would need to be in place. But his primary recommendation that he's made to all the city managers is absolutely, stick with virtual meetings for the time being. As a result, my recommendation would be that at least probably through the end of this calendar year, that we plan to bring back every 30 days to the council an item, unless Dr. Farnatano changes his recommendation, recommending that the findings be made that it is appropriate for us to continue virtual meetings, so that we would continue through the October 5th meeting, which is our next meeting, which we for sure need to make a decision about, but also until such time that Dr. Farnatano changes that advice. So those are the components that are in front of you this evening. I am available for questions. We also have our IT consultant on the line who is available were you to want to ask any super technical things about the equipment, etc. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Anybody on the council have a question for Rena? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I don't have she and I had a very extensive discussion regarding this matter today in our meeting preceding the city council meeting. And I personally am a proponent of trying to get back to in-person meetings. And as I expressed to her, I think she's reassured me even tonight with her discussion that a good percentage of the money that we're going to be expending is to improve the video system and the audio system, which is sorely lacking at Hoyer Hall. For those of us that have participated prior to the pandemic in council meetings, it was very difficult and a challenge when one person was speaking and then the next person wanted to address the group or whatever, and it was a real falderall trying to do that. So I'm hopeful that will overcome that problem. The thing that's so fascinating about all this is that CW and I tomorrow are heading off to Sacramento, where about 200 plus people are all going to be jammed into a damn, auditorium, and nobody's going to be. I don't know how that. I've been up there on many of those meetings. I don't know how they're going to socially distance. The room does not facilitate that. So I don't know if there's going to be a social monitoring monitor or whatever, spacing, and masking and all this stuff. But I just can't imagine, 200 plus people trying to cram into the auditorium up there. And yet, everybody else is saying, we got to stay virtual. And
good luck, Jim. Hopefully you're okay up there. Maybe you'll get an exemption like the Emmys.
I went to a concert at the just 2 weeks ago at the Crest Theater over on K and 10th, and I got to tell you, there was no social distancing. The only thing, there was a peripheral check to make sure we had a card that says we had been vaccinated. And the officer that looked at it didn't even look at the card. I mean, I could have, put up a ace of spades or something like that, and he would have let me go on through. So, I guess we are getting such conflicting and inconsistent messages. Again, I'm a proponent of getting back to in-person meetings, and I look for the day when we get back to and if this money will improve the sound system, the video system, then I support it. Thank you.
Brenda, what is the timeline on that?
So it's a two-part timeline. The first is that a partway improvement on the audio and all of the other improvements. The goal is to have it in place in October, hopefully by the October 5th meeting, although frankly, I breathed a great big sigh of relief that we are likely to be virtual for the October 5th meeting, because Paul, our consultant who was on the line, was like, yes, we can do it, and I'm like, nope, we're gonna do it. So it's a much more reasonable time frame to do it for a little bit later than that. There is a further upgrade to the audio that will take probably into December, because the equipment is back ordered. So we'll get a partial upgrade for microphones that we will then use as backup and handhelds initially, and then we will get the equipment that we really need to improve the audio quality by the end of, it's supposed to come in at the end of November, so it'll be installed shortly after that. So kind of a two-part.
But as far as video hybrid, the other things you're talking about, closed captioning, that's going to take a while yet?
The video upgrade and the potential to do hybrid would likely be in place by October 5th or October 19th. So we would be able to move forward with that.
So it's rather quick, really, the turnaround.
Only because our IT consultant is fabulous, and he I appreciated that he was willing to, stick his neck out and say, yes, we could do it. But yes, it's very quick. But yes, closed caption is going to be a little bit longer. We're working through the analysis of whether it makes more sense to essentially buy a service to do that process, or to buy hardware that can do that process. It depends on the number of hours we anticipate broadcasting that would need to have closed captions. So we're close to being able to work through that analysis. So that may take a little bit longer, but probably the same time frame as the additional upgraded audio.
Thank you.
And by the way, the closed captioning has been an ongoing request by a number of our citizens who are, in fact, our hearing challenged, and that's long overdue, more so than the ability to turn off and on our individual microphones. But that's something we need to be responsive to the community, that particularly people that have been hearing impaired, and we need to be able to do that. So that's another reason to support it. Thank you.
And even more so to stick with virtual meetings till we can do that, because there is absolutely no possibility to make it work in person, masking for anybody. You just lose the capability entirely. So since we don't have the closed captioning on, and frankly, I don't know how you have good closed captioning with masks on anyway. So that's a conundrum that hopefully will be passed by the time we get that implemented.
Holly?
So just to clarify, when we do go back, as long as the county has the ordinance in line, we would have to go back masked indoors.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So then that does make sense then to not do that anytime soon because it's muffled and you can't hear each other. Not to mention all the why Jim just mentioned that scares the bejesus out of me to be around a bunch of people who are just willy-nilly showing a card. And I've heard of people already in town purchasing cards, which makes me angry, that people are not really fully vaccinated and they're going around lying and saying that they are. So yeah, that's a problem.
Don't use fake cards, Jesus Christ.
Say again.
People using fake cards. I mean, what the hell?
They are, and it's actually very frustrating, especially given my immunocompromised situation. I'm all for going back, but not if people are going to banting around fake cards. It's frustrating.
Not being good humans. I had a question about the dollars. So I wasn't clear. So this funding is something that we receive as like a separate funding stream to do improve like government public communications. So this is not part of the general fund spending.
Correct.
Is that correct? Okay, cool.
Correct.
So it doesn't impact our current year budget or anything like that.
Nope.
Okay, that's good. And it sounds like when I look at the description of the network equipment, it sounds like we're still going wireless in Hoyer Hall. Is that the result here at the end of the day?
Yes. Because we don't have a permanent setup, having a wired set of connections that we have to unfurl, tape down, deal with, put back.
Well, I mean, not wireless in terms of the mics, but I'm talking about in terms of network connectivity.
Yes.
Where's the access point that we're connecting to when you're in Hoyer Hall? Like, assuming that this goes forward, where's the access point that we're trying to bridge to?
Perhaps Paul can answer that question. He is on as City of Clayton. He's your behind the scenes.
I assumed as much.
He had his hand up too, as I saw.
Well, no, he's in the room unless he's also in the room. Oh,
Clayton is also
apparently.
He is called Clayton.
Maybe he's double dipping on the yes. Now he's here. Hi, Paul.
It's going to be funny if you can't get unmuted. I'm just going to say.
No. Hi, everyone. It's just that I'm running the meeting as well as participating, so this is kind of new territory for me. Pardon me.
No problem.
But I would like to address the question, and I think it's a great one. So I'm going to be very simple and not get too technical with it. What we're doing is we're using a commercial router that is used for things like freighters, large shipping trucks, and that kind of thing. And we take two cell connections and bond them together. That's the term. And we use something called WAN smoothing. And what this does is it essentially dramatically improves the stability and bandwidth. Was that too much?
No, that's good.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for not being too technical.
No, I mean, we're connecting, the two bonded cell lines are connecting to something. And at some point it's hardlined. So where's that?
Yeah. So the two, actually we use three services. We use AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon, and this is to be able to spread it out over the towers. And so, of course, as you know, the connection from the router to the cell towers is then directly connected to the cables that are a part of their network. And so I can tell you, actually, if you're interested, that I've already tested the new network connection, and there's no doubt that the bandwidth improved by 300%, I'd say, something like that. And so I'm about to do some like real world speed testing to make sure that it maintains that, but it looks real good.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, 300% of like molasses is still not great.
Well, let me give you the real,
at my
real
house,
numbers.
I pull down 100 megs easy, no problem, right? So I mean, like, what's our down and up speed there?
So we have 40 down and about 25 to 30 up for this dedicated router that will be utilized for
2 devices, essentially. Now, we also have 2 other devices that will be available for staff and council members so that they can also participate using the data hubs, so to speak. But that's separate from this bonded router that's specifically for this service.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. That's helpful. It's good to get some metrics on it. Did we ever entertain the possibility of getting a hard line in the building?
We did talk about it when we started talking about this some time ago, and we'll continue to evaluate whether that's the case. But the cost is astronomically higher, and so in the immediate term, it makes more sense to pursue this. We'll continue to evaluate whether there are broadband funds somehow that could be used to get a true decent connection. But this is a great first step without spending $1 million.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you've looked at it, so I believe you. I just think, Comcast in town, they'll set up a line like to a residence at least pretty easily, but I think maybe in that space it's difficult for them to get to, but they'll literally just like wire it from a pole over to your house for not that much. But I don't know what the details are here, so I'm sure it's more complicated, but this is going to impact like City Hall and everyone in the library. I mean, if you get a dedicated line there that's like a business line, you can get down speeds of like easily 200 megs, which is significantly better. At 40, I think we're still gonna, we still have the potential of having issues. And then if you have, I don't know what our viewership is, but if it was like, let's be generous and say it was 40 people, 25 up, you're gonna run into, you could run into some problems.
Council member, can I address that?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So what this bonded router will be used for is 2 connections. One connection in the event that we do go to a hybrid type meeting, it will serve as a single Zoom session, which will provide the up and the down for that single Zoom session. The second internet connection will be for the upload for the stream. And that actually only requires about 700K to 1 megabit. So it's actually a very small amount. And I've been doing this for a number of years. And I can tell you that through experience that as long as I can maintain somewhere around 5 megabits upload, I'm okay. So for me to get anywhere near 30 is wonderful. And there's also another aspect too that I can't overstate enough, which is this term. I know it's technical, but it's important. It's called WAN smoothing. And it's something very unique are you familiar?
No, I was just looking at the subtext under my picture.
Okay. And anyway, WAN smoothing, essentially what it does is it duplicates packets and it dramatically improves the stability of that upload stream, which is the most important thing. So back to the answer on your question, only 2 devices will actually be using this. So that 40 down and say 25 to 30 up is only for 2 devices.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, hey, if it's going to work, it's going to be awesome.
Well, I know it's been a struggle for a number of years, council member, and I honestly I'm anxious to improve this. Yeah, if you could come over and get my Ring doorbell to work too, I'd appreciate that.
Hold on. In the proposal, also, Raina, you had mentioned that there's about 2,000 that is necessary for hybridization of the meetings. Like, is that permeated throughout all the line items, or is that somewhere separate?
There's one of the gigantic monitors that is associated with, it can be used for other things, but it's really needed if you're going to do a hybrid meeting. And Paul may be able to remember what the other, he and I had this conversation earlier today, and there were two pieces. One was about 1,500, one was about 500. And
is it the two 55-inch 4K TVs?
Exactly.
One of those.
Yeah, there's two wireless transmitter receivers that make the connection in Hoyer Hall easier for us from an AV standpoint. And there's also a dedicated computer for the Zoom or the hybrid session. So if you add all of that up together, that's where we come to about $2,000.
Okay, and that is included within this current number then, because I see those here.
Yes. That is correct. Yes, that's in there.
Okay. And then we're talking about things that are not in stock. Like I think in the staff report, it notes that the audio portion and some components of the audio are not in stock. So, but I think you mentioned that would be later in the year, probably still in Q4 sometime.
Yes, it's back ordered and expected to be in at the end of November, and that's the Shure microphone system. That's really the audio that we need. So.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. Oh yeah, meeting in person. Yeah, whatever. It's fine. We'll do it. It'll happen when it happens.
So anybody else have questions before we open it up to the public? No? Let's go and see if we have anyone. We'll open the public comment now. And Janet, do we have anyone that would like to speak on this?
Mayor Wolf, I have Dee. Dee, as I promote you to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. It looks like promoting the panelists is not working, but I will allow you to speak as an attendee.
I see Dee's picture there. Are you there, Dee?
Hi, this is Dee.
Hello, Dee.
Hi. I support the virtual meeting still for, several reasons. First, we know that it's safe and it works. It provides the ability for many people to participate since we've gone to virtual meetings. So you have a larger viewing audience. I don't think Hoyer Hall can hold as many people as you've been having on virtual meetings. And I don't think people would make the time to go. I mean, it's offered a lot of flexibility for me personally, and I'm sure for others as well. So if you go back to exclusive in-person meetings, you'll be omitting a lot of your community. And then I wanted to share with you, so if you do go back to in-person meetings, I'm guessing you're going to have to show proof of vaccination. But one of the things I've been sharing with my family and friends is you can go to myvaccinerecord.cdph.ca.gov and you get your digital COVID vaccine record. So you just enter a few details and it'll link your QR code for your digital copy, and it makes it easier entering public places. And it's also linked to the government. It'll show you I think it's just two things. It'll either show you your digital card if you don't have your actual card on your person. So I just want to share that with the public. It'll make life a lot easier when you're going into places. And I hope that police are looking at these things closer and not really doing what Jim experienced, not even bothering to look at it. So, but I think if people will link it to the government digital vaccine record portal, that would make life a lot easier for everybody. So that's all I wanted to share, and carry on.
Thank you, Captain. All right. Thanks, Dee. Do we have anyone else, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, I do not have any other hands raised on this item.
Okay, and we will close public comment on this and bring it back to council for discussion, motion.
Jim Diaz moves approval.
Do you have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, so we got a first by Diaz, second by Cloven.
And if I could clarify, so the recommendation is for the approval of the equipment, the spending and appropriation of the money from the PEG funds, and to continue to meet virtually essentially through the end of the year unless the recommendation from Dr. Farnatano changes with respect to in-person public meetings.
That's it.
Correct, Jim?
Reluctantly, yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to personally call good old doctor, whatever his name is.
Farnatano.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay, and so we got a first by Diaz, second by Cloven. Janet, please.
Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Tillman,
Aye.
Councilmember Juan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cloven,
Yes.
Mayor Wolf.
Yes. Okay, that passes unanimously, and we're moving on to item B, American Rescue Plan Act update and ratification of agreement with management partners for assistance in developing and implementing a program to use federal stimulus funding from the American Rescue Plan Act for a not to exceed amount of $55,000 and appropriating $55,000 from the American Rescue Plan funds received by the city. And city manager, back to you. Oh, and I see Daniel. Hey, there's Dan.
Thank you. And there is Mr. Keene. So thank you, Mayor and Council. This item also has a couple of components. One is to ratify the agreement with management partners to assist the city in developing and implementing a program for our ARPA funds. The agreement is attached to your council report. The proposal you'll see is for $45,000. I am requesting up to $55,000. That funding would only be released if there is additional work that needs to be done to move us through that process. If it's not required, then we would not be spending those funds. We will be back to council anyway when we come with the program recommendations, because we will need to appropriate ARPA funding for the actual program implementation. So that is the specific action item for you. In addition to that, I have Dan Keene here from Management Partners, who has a brief presentation to talk about the plan of how we get from here to there in terms of developing and implementing our ARPA program. And so unless there are any immediate questions, I would turn it over to Dan to make his presentation.
Thank you. Dan, oh, wait, we do have a question from Councilmember Diaz.
Yeah, just a very quick clarification. This money, based upon what you gave us the first time when we talked about this program, there are funds dedicated there for administration. Is that part of this, or is this separate?
Their ARPA funds can be used for administration of ARPA funded programs. This is a use of the ARPA funds for that type of administrative function, and Management Partners is providing that service.
Thank you.
So welcome, Daniel.
Thank you. Good evening. Can everybody hear me all right?
We can.
I can certainly hear you well. It's been an interesting council meeting. It's been fun watching it from this side. I will share my screen here very quickly. If I can just, let me see here. Here we go. And there we go. Everybody can see my presentation all right there? All right, great. Well, thank you for having me give you a brief presentation tonight on the work that we're proposing to do for the city of Clayton. Okay, this is not going to work for me. Here we go. First, just a little bit about Management Partners. We are a firm that has been around about 25 years. We serve local government. We work throughout the country. We have offices in 3 locations, but particularly in this day and age, we're able to work in many states virtually and also in person. And we do a lot of different things. One of the things that we have started to do, most recently, of course, with the passage of ARPA, is that we are providing consulting services to cities like Clayton, who are looking for help to develop plans to spend the funds and make sure that the funds are spent in a way that you'll be able to receive those funds and keep them, because there are, as you know, a number of rules that come with these. So while we are here, as you know, the city of Clayton will receive $2.9 million in ARPA federal stimulus funds. These are the entitlement funds that you will receive as what's called a non-entitlement city. The funding is available for a broad range of uses, but it must be related in some way to COVID-19. And so it is important that the city create a plan that takes into account public input as well as your input, that, as you know, we have started that, looks at stakeholders, looks at your needs, and ultimately balances your short-term needs with your long-term investments, so that the funds are approved and that you are reimbursed. So at the end of the day, one of the products of this effort will be a plan, which we will present to you for your approval on the use of the ARPA funds. The other thing we will be doing is then preparing an implementation action plan so that that plan can get implemented, and also come up with the procedures so that when you begin to spend these funds, you are tracking those funds correctly and will be receiving reimbursement for it. We have heard you loud and clear that one of the things you want to do in Clayton is move as quickly as possible. And so this schedule that I'm showing you here really sort of reflects that, in that some of these steps actually will overlap each other. We have started the project. Tonight I'm providing this overview. It's also for the community's benefit, of course. And we are getting ready to, we have already started the interview process. I have talked to some of you, and I will be finishing that up this week. And then we're starting the process of getting ready to do online surveys. We anticipate at least 2 surveys, one for residents and another that focuses on business in the community. We will throw a broad net. We're looking for a lot of input, and we're looking for information from the community about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted them, and using that as a way to help us identify potential uses of these funds. When we complete those surveys, we'll be doing some analysis, of course. We'll be identifying eligible uses that as specifically for Clayton. We'll be, of course, identifying these reporting requirements, and then we will develop a set of recommendations based on the feedback we've received, the assessment of what they might be used for, and what we think will be most likely considered eligible. Then we will prepare the ARPA plan and an implementation action plan, and then be bringing that forward to the City Council after getting, of course, guidance from your staff. And then after that plan is adopted by the Council, we will develop the reporting compliance processes so that the funds are spent correctly, and that you have the internal accounting and reporting requirements in place, in the forms and so on, that we want to make sure that that those are all in place at the same time. So that is essentially what we'll be doing, and I would be happy to answer any questions you might have at this point.
Thank you. Yes, I see a question from Vice Mayor Clayton.
So it looks like you have a pretty straightforward plan that requires a lot of I's to be dotted and T's to be crossed before we distribute any funds. Is there any possibility that a initial offering could be given, even a slight one, to those that are in dire need, or do we need to wait till all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed?
I cannot answer that question tonight. I think it probably is dependent on the actual use of the funds and how they would be used. But we will be looking into that as quickly as possible, because we did hear you very clearly that that is something that, even if it means spending a portion of the funds up front and then the substantial amount, on the back end. We've heard that, but we will need to do some research to make sure that complies with the regulations that the Treasury has put out.
Thanks.
I guess I would just chime in to accelerate as quickly and get up to speed as you can, because we have some businesses here in town, I know for a fact, have been really negatively impacted, and they are looking for relief. And I don't know what you got to do to speed it up, but I would just encourage you to really look for the fast track I guess the best way to characterize it.
Great, understood.
Jeff?
Is there, in the eligibility criteria, is there a limit as to the amount that can be spent on administrative purposes?
There is. I am sorry, I don't know the exact number or the percentage, but there is a limit on that, yes. We're within that limit. I know this contract would be well within that limit.
Yeah, I guess I asked the question because I know that this will be covered by it, but then, to the extent that there's other administrative activities that are transpiring, I want to know just how close we are to that threshold or whatnot, because I think it's important to know just, if we're gonna cross over, because if we cross over, I think we're on the hook for it essentially if it becomes ineligible. So, and I think, during our conversation, I did suggest, if we could front load it in some way just to advance, like do an advance, but then, we essentially be on the hook for that in some way, even if it allows for advancement. If somehow the use is disallowed, then we're essentially on the hook as well. So there's a risk there, but I think it's worth exploring just as a way to do that. And we've already gotten some of the money, and I'm pretty sure we'll get some of the others. So, I guess, then I had questions about the document that was included in the agenda. Hold on, let me shut my door for a sec. So when it talks about scope of work, it refers to attachment A, and in attachment A, I think that starts on the agenda page 65-ish or so, but it lists, I think, 6 activities. But when I look at these activities, and it's consistent with what you just said, come up with a plan, then an implementation action plan, and then come up with procedures, and then so that's somewhat reflected here in the actual scope document where it says start the project, gather information.
Right.
I'm paraphrasing, obviously. I know that you put a lot more work into this than that.
Sure.
Conduct analysis. Activity 4 is report results, facilitate deliberation. Activity 5 is build the plan and implementation plan. I think that's what you were talking about in the second item there. And then there's an optional activity 6 is develop a process for reporting. So, one of the things when we engage with consultants such as yourself is I always focus on what are the actual deliverables.
That's right.
And in this case, it does sound like it's a lot of process documentation, planning documentation. But when we're talking about actually operationalizing this, whatever plan that we settle on, where does that work fall? Because I don't think that you are signing up for operationalizing this plan.
No, the implementation action plan is typically where things get operationalized. And once we have completed that, and working, of course, with your staff, once your city manager begins to implement that implementation action plan, or IAP in this case, you are effectively now putting it into place. You're effectively proceeding. What we find in our work, and we do implementation action plans for a lot of the work we do, is that if we just come up with a plan, but we don't assist the agency in understanding the steps that may be taken, we don't work through that process with them, it's less likely that the recommendations are going to be actually implemented. Now, I doubt that would be the case here, because I know that you as a council really want to spend this money as quickly as possible. But we do think, given the Treasury's requirements, and among them is a requirement that there's a single audit be prepared. That is not something that a lot of cities, and particularly small cities, have a whole lot of expertise in, and you have you have some new staff people. So we would recommend that you take advantage of our expertise to help put those procedures together. We have done this for other agencies, so we have some expertise there, so that it not only is it, from a process point of view, it begins to be implemented, but it also is done correctly, so that you will be reimbursed for the funds, and that they don't take them back.
Okay. Yeah, because it does seem like when we, and that's great. I think that is a good call out. When we do operationalize, hold on a second, my dog's going crazy. When we do operationalize the plan, I think that the work will fall on the shoulders of city staff.
Yes.
And so, that's why I was asking earlier about the administration limit, because I think that time, the effort there, I assume that's also an eligible cost, because it's in terms of administering the plan.
Yes.
And so I think it's important to just understand what the ratios are there,
okay,
so that we're not, that we have a full scope or picture of what the work is. Because here, I want to make sure that we are clear here at the council and at the city that even if we do this, even if everything goes well, there's a lot that is not being there's a lot that will still need to be done in terms of legwork on the city staff wise, and they're going to have to be tasked to do it. And it's not something that they've done before. It's also in addition to the work they already do, and they're already, I believe, somewhat. They have full-time jobs, so
they do.
I just want to be really clear that you are not operationalizing this, and so when we execute this, we're still going to have a large burden to do.
Yes.
And then that when you mentioned single audit, it just raised a question in my mind. Our auditors, they haven't done single audits for us, at least, and so I think that there will probably be fees associated with performing a single audit, if that's in their tool bag. So I would assume that the cost of the single audit would also be included within the scope of eligible uses, but maybe not. I don't know.
We will explore that. I would be very surprised if it was not.
Okay.
But we will make sure that is identified. But I would be very surprised if that was not. It's a very customary administrative cost. Yeah.
And so when we talk about optional activity 6, this is the processes for ARPA reporting and compliance. So this, for the single audit, you're developing the process narratives, control documents, and essentially laying all those out so that it will support the single audit? Is that part of the deliverable?
That is I believe that's the option 6. Let me just bring that back up here on my screen.
Yes, that's the last piece of it.
That's the optional option 6. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Cropper does do single audits, so they haven't done it for us, so there would be an additional charge, but they do have it in their wheelhouse, if you will.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because it's easy to get tripped up on single audits, and they're really annoying. So I've done many of them, and they are annoying. So to the extent that you can provide that documentation, it's not a skill that, it is a skill. And so if we haven't done it before, especially, it's very time consuming. And so I would say I would recommend to my colleagues here that if we do have the option to essentially make this process documentation, control narrative documentation, essentially turnkey, it would benefit us, so that we don't task our staff to develop things that are like super annoying to develop. So that's it. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Peter.
So as you put together this implementation plan and it's handed off to the city, and the city has to actually implement it, I guess ask the city manager, what challenges do you see relative to staffing and taking all this documentation and backup and all these requests and actually distributing the money? I mean, that goes on the city staff, correct?
So there are a couple ways to handle it. One way is to have staff do it, which would be a challenge. The second, I know in other jurisdictions, and certainly we did this in San Pablo with prior types of COVID assistance, partnered with a nonprofit to essentially run the program implementation piece itself. So if we have an economic development nonprofit, either in town or, in reasonable proximity, that's another option. So that's something that we'll be working on and bring it back at the time we have program development completed.
Okay. And go ahead, Jeff.
Oh yeah, that actually just triggered something for me as well. Like, with our use of consultants, which, I think in many cases it's hard to digest from a public consumption point of view, but at the same time, I think, there's many uses that are necessary, some that aren't. I think this is one of the former, not the latter. But we have people that say, hey, if we're hiring people, can I just volunteer and do the work? I'm like, I don't think you're an expert here, but if you are, then hang your shingle and let's, maybe we could have a conversation about what you can offer. And, to Raina, to your point, the administration component, I mean, that's another skill that I don't necessarily think we are overflowing with. So, to the extent that folks have this skill and they want to, volunteering is great because that's free, but I think we take all comers and we'll entertain things. And if it works for our program, then I think that has the potential to be useful.
Absolutely. And for example, if we have someone in the community, say, who's got, banking or underwriting or other kinds of experience that would allow us to evaluate applications for assistance, et cetera, then that may be the right avenue for us.
By the way, you mentioned, Raina, that maybe utilizing some economic development nonprofit group. I'm just trying to reflect on the 14 plus years I spent on the United Way board. There are numbers of them around the Bay Area. I can't particularly call one out to mind, but I'm sure there is some economic development nonprofit experience out there that could be tapped. And I hadn't even thought about that, but that's an excellent recommendation.
I have a question. Just going back to the timeline that we saw, that was for us to get to, it looks like option activity 6. To Raina, when do you think then going to activity 5 and actually implementing this, if we have to bring in another partner to help us distribute checks, et cetera, and put the action plan into action, what do you think the timeline actually looks like?
I think it overlaps, to some degree with what you saw in that timeline chart. But, when would we start taking applications? If we have program design done, ready to go, we will be taking applications, certainly before the end of the year. That would be the plan. And then processing as quickly as possible. The holidays are kind of a drag, but that we'll get past that. So that would be the plan. So, we would be starting to take applications.
From whom? So that the audience can understand who that's from.
Businesses and or individuals, whoever it is who's asking for money from us. Thinking about businesses, for example, then, we would be asking for whatever packet of materials we need. And that would start, November, December, depending on the exact date that it comes back to the council, and then the program materials.
Okay. Great.
To that point, then, I gather management associates will design the document, I guess, that we're going to use to have our local businesses use to apply for the funds. Is that my understanding then?
Well, it would depend on whether you decide that whether it's in fact an eligible use and it is something that you decide you want to put into the plan. I don't know that we would develop it down to the level of the actual application. I think we may assist in pointing to the kinds of documentation you need to collect from your recipients. The actual form of that may be something that you want to do, or if you want to hire us to do that.
Yeah, because it just strikes me that there has to be in my mind, some sort of a common document. You know, I call and say, "Hey, I want $1,000." Okay, well, how do I just can't ask for it.
Right.
I got to put some things together, and there's got to be a structure to request that.
Right. Again, we are doing this for other agencies, so it's very likely by the time we get to this point, we will have access to at least some samples that we could provide to the city. But we are, in a sense, you are also creating programs out of nothing. I mean, this is a new source of funds, and you don't have it in place already. So So it will take some effort.
And I understand. I understand that, and I think that this is all new ground that we're plowing here. So no, I got that.
I mean, it is $2.9 million. That's a happy problem. It's just the challenge is how do you spend it so that it is, it complies with the guidelines and meets the needs that you have. And we have to find a way to document those needs. But that can be done.
Very good. Thank you.
And I already have sample materials from my former agency. So I am a little bit of a leg up on that topic in terms of kind of looking at what that packet might look like.
I was going to suggest that we plagiarize from other places that are ahead of us.
Just borrowing from colleagues.
That's right. Borrowing best practices.
So, Raina, do you think that this would be a manual effort on behalf of the recipients, or is this something that can be digital? Like, can they send it in electronically, the request, or are they going to have to hand write these out? I'm just trying to figure out time and trying to get these out the door. Look at your face.
No, nothing by hand, preferably. But so we'll do as much as we can with fillable forms, and then electronic submittal of whatever documentation we require to have proof of cost or need or whatever that turns out to be. As much as possible, we'll look to streamline that from a submittal standpoint, because I don't want paper. I hate paper.
So then will there be a central repository for that then? I'm just trying to work through the dynamics on how those are all going to come in. And instead of them all coming to your email, are we going to create a portal for those to go to? I'm just trying to understand what's in scope and how to make this easier for staff.
Well, I mean, I think that's part of the detail with that. It will be contained within Activity 5 here. And Daniel, Mr. Keene is on the hook for that.
Are you nodding, Mr. Keene?
I'm nodding, yes.
Okay.
We will certainly identify the procedures that are recommended. And obviously one of them would be creating electronic forms so that it's as easy as possible to review and make decisions on applications for funds. Yes.
And I can tell you that Paul is still listening. So he's, he will be hearing that there is a to-do in his future, along with many other to-dos that I sent his way.
Perfect.
Let's see what the public has to say. Open up public comment. And Janet, do we have any hands raised?
We do, Mayor Wolf. Larry, as you're promoted to panelist, if you can please unmute your microphone, you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Good evening. Can everybody hear me?
Hi, Larry. Welcome back.
Hey, guys. Once again, I'm back. So appreciate the time and going through this program. And it looks like that could be a home run for a lot. I kind of wanted to bring a lot of people up to date. So recently, a lot of the small businesses in Clayton were denied the EIDL grant, which was extended up to $10,000. Based off of the map of where the Clayton small businesses are located, we're not considered highly income, I guess not highly income affected by the pandemic. Frustrating for me and several of the people that have small businesses in the Safeway shopping center is that if you look at where we're located, we're kind of on the border of Clayton and Concord. The Shell gas station is a Concord address. So, you know, I went back and forth with the grant department multiple times, laying out map and explaining to where we were located. Unfortunately, it just didn't work. And, you know, it is what it is today. You know, I keep my head up and we keep pushing forward. The frustration for me and the other small businesses locally are I could walk across the street and go into the Bank of America shopping center, and that entire shopping center was considered highly affected by the pandemic. So it is a little bit of a frustration from one small business to another based off of where we live. Going back with the gentleman that's going to be working on this program, I have a couple questions and concerns. One is that as we move forward on this program, we're going to be sending out some data to, you know, drive information that you're going to need as far as from residents and small businesses. My question would be, we're going to push this out coming into the holiday season. I worry in the time frame for the simple fact is how many participants are going to actually pay attention when this comes in the mail, or how are you ever going to distribute this so you can get the correct information you want to determine how we're going to administrate the funds for small businesses and other people that were affected during this time. So basically, very short and sweet tonight. I appreciate everybody staying up late and doing what you're doing. Like I said before, you know, the pandemic is highly affected a lot of the small business in Clayton. And even Jim said earlier today, you know, it is an issue. Business is business today. We are seeing a small increase, which is really weird. It comes up, and then for several days it goes back down. So I haven't figured it out. I'm still waving my hand outside and getting people to come back in and making phone calls. But whatever we come up with today, I highly appreciate everything you guys doing, and hopefully it'll be sooner than later, guys. I appreciate your time and have a great night.
Thank you, Larry. Really appreciate your coming back and your insights the other day too.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Holly?
I just wanted to make a clarifying point in the timeline. I thought that the outreach for the businesses was going to happen within the month of October. I don't have the timeline in front of me, but I thought that was the case.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I just wanted to reassure Mr. Love that it wasn't going to happen in the holiday season. That outreach would happen within the next few weeks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, and definitely outreach is a component of the plan. So I mean,
It's important. It's important for making sure the plan is approved and accepted when you get around to that audit after the fact. You need to show that you reached out and you identified the need, and you did so in a way that was deliberate. And we've structured that process.
Do we have any other hands raised, Janet?
Mayor Wolf, at this time, I do not have any other hands raised on this item.
Thank you very much. And we will close the public comment on this, bring it back to council.
Move approval, Jim Diaz.
There we go. Beat me to the bunch. Okay, Jim's first. I see Holly has seconded this. And Janet, you can call the vote. This is the full measure here, right? Yes.
This includes the optional activity 6 as well.
Absolutely. It's Jim
Agreed.
saying,
Agreed.
Okay.
Great.
Janet?
Whatever makes this thing move fast. That's my goal. And whatever my motion is. Fast track.
All right, Councilmember Diaz,
Yes.
Councilmember Tillman,
Aye.
Councilmember Juan,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cloven,
Absolutely.
and Mayor Wolf.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that passes. Okay, and then we'll move on now to this. I'm sorry? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Daniel. Oh, yes, thank you.
all. I'll be seeing you again soon.
It was good talking to you too. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, bye now.
Item C is a discussion of the process of timing for putting a tax measure on the ballot. City Clerk is going to be taking this one. Janet?
All right. Well, thank you, Mayor and council members. The item before you this evening is an opportunity to discuss the process and timing for putting a tax measure on the ballot. And there is one correction that I would like to make to the staff report. There's a chart, and it should have indicated the gubernatorial election on June 7th, 2022, instead of the April 12th, 2022 election. Either of those elections would most likely be a standalone election, meaning if Clayton decides to add a tax measure to the ballot, it would likely be just for Clayton. And that would incur additional cost. In the last few November elections, the average cost to the city has been $11,000 to $15,000 just to hold a regular November election. This cost is calculated by Contra Costa County Elections Department, and it's at a rate between $1 and $3 per registered voter in Clayton. The November 8th, 2022 election would most likely be the least expensive to add a measure, as Clayton is already scheduled for 2 council seats. If a tax measure is approved by the voters on November 8th, 2022, the operative date of April 1st, 2023, where retailers engage in the business of the district would be required to collect the tax. Although we will begin to see the cash flow effective April 1st, there's usually an implementation delay as businesses updated their system to include the additional tax. So it wouldn't be an immediate recovery or immediate tax that we receive. And that is all I have. I don't know if City Manager Swartz had anything to add.
Just that the timing that you indicated was for a sales tax measure. The property tax measure would lag, I believe, even a little bit further because of the timing for property tax collections.
Questions? Comments?
Yeah, I had some comments because I think this is my item, right? So so when I'm looking at the chart on the staff report, I think it's on the agenda, it's internal document, page 78. It's the established election dates. So I guess, it seems like the rules require this to be a general election. So we have those 2 available dates, the June and November date. But then I think there's some work that needs to be done prior to those dates, obviously. And I think those deadlines, is that what is listed here on the chart?
That is correct. The November 8th, 2022 election, the deadline to place the measure on the ballot would be August 12th, 2022.
I see.
Yeah, the June date, if we were to do that, the deadline would be March 11th, 2022.
I see. Okay, so it's like that the second column under 2022, and then the first and third rows, I guess. And so with that, I think so those are the dates that we need to have everything submitted. But prior to that, there's legwork that needs to be done for getting the actual ballot language and all the other requirements associated. And I think that is detailed here in some of the later pages here. So I guess I'm not sure if everyone was aware, but I'd raised this issue because there's a combination of a number of things. We have structural problems in our budget, ARPA funding notwithstanding, because that has limited eligibility criteria, so we can't really just take that and plug it into the general fund as much. It's not really the purpose of it. But we struggled in a number of areas, and I think they've all somewhat come to a head fairly recently, and so that's what prompted the question. We have the combination of, with our latest, salary negotiations with our groups. We've seen that there's projected deficits starting, not next year, but the year thereafter. We've had trouble both retaining and attracting talent, which thankfully we've secured 2 positions recently, but we often have folks within city employment who for whatever, everyone has their own reasons for why they do things, but at the end of the day, if they leave, it does, with a small staff, I think it impacts the operations of the city generally. We want to be a desirable place to work, to attract talent, to retain talent. The more we turn over staff, it's harder just to do the baseline business, let alone anything cool. And so that's a problem. And then, you know, we have dedicated funds, or sorry, funds, that's right. Like fund numbers that are designed for certain purposes. And as we looked at the latest budget, we see that several of these special revenue funds are underwater. They've been declining in value for a number of years, every year. And those two, in addition to our general fund, which pays the wages of all of our staff, including all of our police. But, you know, things like the street lights, literally keeping the lights on you know, that the fund to do that is underwater. And so that is bad if you like street lights. You know, you could turn off every other street light, but apparently that's probably not a good idea. I mean, I think when we explain this issue to the community and we say, look, if we all pitch in a little bit, then we can gain true fiscal sustainability and set us up for the foreseeable future so that we don't need to come hat in hand on a go-forward basis. We can tell our staff that, you know, we value their work. We want the city to be a great place to work and live. And when you make this argument, it's actually very easy to make. And when we do that, I think we get widespread support. So correct me if I'm wrong, because I made a mistake on this before, so I just want to make sure I get this right. You know, for a general fund tax increase, you know, the approval threshold is 50%. For a special purpose tax for, like, I don't know, a tax for red balloons downtown or something, that would require two-thirds approval. That's not what I think that is not what I think is right for the city. And so, you know, I think, you know, it's been tough for a number of years to try and make the budget work. And, you know, I want to express gratitude to the prior city managers and, you know, as well as our current staff for always finding a way. And so we've been able to get by on limited means and even then still establish a healthy reserve. But these are problems that aren't created overnight. And then, you know, as a result, the solutions are not overnight. But I do think that if we approach this issue from the lens of fiscal sustainability and making sure that we can do the critical functions that we need to do as a city, I think we get support. So that's why I wanted to raise this issue. I think it's important just for the health of the city. So it seems like there are 2 dates to target. There's a cost. Either, you know, I know that there's a number of legwork that hopefully I'm not going to do to establish all the ballot language. You know, that'll be, you know, Mala will help us out with that. But you know, because we want to there's all these rules, and if you word something wrong, they just disallow all your stuff. So that's not good. But, you know, if you guys are in support, you know, it would be good to start now, or not now necessarily, but earlier rather than later, because I do believe there's a significant amount of legwork. And then once we establish how we want to do it, the outreach is going to be important to get people on board. Everyone I've talked to either is supportive or they started out opposed, but then they came around saying, I still hate it, but okay. So I'll take that too. You know, I think you will always get some quantity of opposition, which I think is totally legit. Like, I'm normally opposed to most taxes because taxes, who likes those? But you know, sometimes there's a good reason. And I think when we have that conversation, both, you know, here as a council and individually when we talk with the people around town, I think it sells itself. So it's not a hard sell. Anyways, that was my comments. There's no question there.
The bottom line is, I agree with you that this is going to be transparency, PR. I've already had a couple of people take me to task over the last couple of weeks with regard to this possible tax increases. But I, like you, I'm optimistic that if we explain this correctly, that we can make people understand how important this is going to be. Yes, Jim.
Fundamentally, I am opposed to any taxes. In fact, I'm a proponent of reducing taxes. But from the people that I talk to that love this community, see the need to do something, and cutting services is not what they want to see, at least to the small circle of people that I talk to. So I agree with Jeff, and I applaud him bringing this item forward, because we can't do it at the last minute. We're going to have to do a very thoughtful, and I agree, outreach is going to be real key to this thing. If we come together with some reasonable language that people can support and understand why we're doing it. Just the fact of making sure that certain maintenance items get done in good time, and we have the adequate staff to do all that. Most people that I've talked to want to continue our local police department. They like the interaction of the officers, knowing them. Well, we've got to do something, and we did with the last contract to help raise their positions within the city and the county. But anyway, so I'm looking forward to working on this process, and hopefully we'll be able to come up with a good package that we can really get out there and beat the drum for. Thank you.
I think they also have to understand, people have to understand that it's not, what did we do wrong here?
No, I agree. I agree with you. No.
It's been, because that's the question I got was, what happened? What did you guys do? And so, this is like Jeff said, this has been building for a while, and a lot of creative work has been done to keep us afloat. But I don't think that using our reserves would be the right way to go. And right. Again, we're talking, I know this is about timing for putting this on the ballot. So probably getting back to that conversation.
Okay, Mala froze, so she can't stop us.
I think she fell asleep. Oh, goodness me. Anyway.
I think that this is a great process to go through. The earlier, the better. And it's not only about making sure that we're fully staffed. I think it's a lot more, to me, about making sure that our staff is compensated in line with their peers in the area, which has been sorely lacking for years. And it's long overdue to do something like this. And I think the more that we educate our residents, the better off we'll be. Outreach is great, but it's not just city lights will be turned off. This is what we will not get. These are the people that we could lose, or the resources we could lose. And look, you can have your median upgraded, and you don't have to be upset with driving into town and seeing dead bushes or broken sprinkler heads, et cetera. The numerous calls that we get between each meetings. I think all of that, all the things getting fixed, I think that'd be palatable to more than 50% of our population.
Yeah,
so
no problem. I've summarized this by saying you can have low cost and you can have high services, but you cannot have both. So you can pick. And if you want something, it is the fiscally responsible thing to do to pay for it.
Yep.
I too hate taxes, and I'm going to say I hate them more than Jim, but I think as a fiscal steward, if you want services, then we need to pay for them. So I think residents can make the choice. If they don't want services, then they can do that too. But I do not think that is the will of our city generally. So I think then if that is the case, then it is responsible to make sure that we fund it adequately.
Yeah.
Rita, can you give me some clarification? I thought I heard that you could do a sales tax and then a parcel tax. What's the timing on either of those? Just timing wise. I mean, can you do? I mean,
you can do them all, but what Raina was talking about with the timing, did she freeze too? No, she didn't freeze. I saw her.
No, I did not freeze.
What she was saying about timing was the difference of when you start seeing those revenues is different because sales tax can be implemented slightly faster, but parcel taxes need to go through the assessor, and then there's like this, there's a longer runway necessary.
There's an additional lag just because of the way property taxes are collected. The other thing I wanted to clarify is that tax measures, sales tax, parcel tax, whatever kind of tax, can only be put on at a general election, and our next general election is November of 22. So that is the election that we would be targeting if we're going to move forward with doing that. And it is not too early to start work for a ballot measure for the November 22 ballot. It is a steep climb to get there, so if the direction is that this is something the council wants to pursue, then I can start putting together a process to get us from here to there with all of the checkpoints along the way.
So would your process basically be a model of what our needs are versus over a 10-year period, or what does that look like? As far as figuring out how much we want to put on the ballot we're talking about.
It's a number of things. It's one, looking at some financial modeling and determining kind of what it would mean if we were to raise, X million versus Y million, and what would it do, and what does it look like over time, and what would the sustainability be like? So that's one piece. The second piece is putting together that ballot language. What exactly are we asking there? If it's we have to put in place an ordinance in order to do that. So we have to go through that part of the process. And then there's education. As a reminder, because I can channel Mala on this as well, staff and city money cannot do anything but educate. We cannot advocate. We cannot tell people how to vote. We can simply describe the consequences of a yes vote or a no vote, or the outcomes of a yes vote or a no vote. Council members have some additional flexibility, but that is not city funds or city staff time.
We can advocate till the cows come home.
You can advocate till the cows come home. So just a few other components of that, but to get from here to there, there's the financial analysis, there's the determination of the desired, ultimately what we desire to have on the ballot. It's the process for putting that all together, and then the education.
So let's see what the public has to say. Janet, do we have, can we open the public comment? And is there anybody that wants to jump in on this discussion?
Mayor Wolf, at this time, I do not have any hands raised on this item.
Oh, we must be doing something right. Okay, then we will close the public comment and bring it back for discussion here to give direction.
For me, I would ask that we direct staff to explore what the steps that Raina had said along those lines to target the November 8th, or is it the 8th? The November 2022 date, and back into that with a timeline of what activities need to be done to lead up to that date, and then a broad outline so that we can discuss those steps at a future meeting and determine based on that outline how we want to operationalize it going forward. If that's a desire.
I would second that direction. Anybody else?
Yeah, that was a motion.
That was a motion. Okay, then. All right. In that case, well, then I'll second that anyway, since I've already opened my mouth. Anybody else have any questions, comments? No? Janet, do you want to?
Sure. Councilmember Diaz?
Diaz, did you say?
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Councilmember Tillman?
Yes.
Councilmember Juan?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Cloven?
Yes.
Mayor Wolf?
Okay, yes. All right. So that is, you have your direction now, Raina. You're all good? Okay. So now council item 10, the council items limited to council requests and directives for future meetings. Do we have any? Yes, Jim.
Yeah, I have several things. First of all, I want to make a comment that I didn't make under my comments. I had a couple items that I had to work with our interim city engineer, Mark Nasser, professional engineer, PE, and it was a very positive experience, and we were able to satisfy the comments and our requests that came into the city. Back to future items, back to maintenance, and the concert series was a challenge. We get down there, the team that I assemble, and I got to tell you, over the past, well, we only had 5 concerts this year, but each time we would go there on Saturday morning, there was so much trash and other things. The benches were covered with soda bottle droppings and all that. They were sticky. I want to discuss the fund that exists for the Grove Park, and I know Raina and I talk about this morning, and explore that to look at how we will address maintaining or at least improving the concert environment for next season. And again, for getting ahead of the curve, that's what I'm trying to do here, because we need to. In my view, we finally got it done partially at the last concert, but power washing not only the tables and the benches, but also the cement. And the thing that was so frustrating from a personal experience on this was the fact that most of the trash was within a foot of a trash receptacle. So, I mean, it's like the kids don't give a darn. And I know that we're putting some new items in there in the park to help do that. So I'm looking to discuss that in more detail on how to use. First of all, what the amount is in that fund for the Grove Park and what acceptable uses. Second item.
Maybe we should get Jesse Thompson from Diablo View Middle School to come and pick up.
That was a good comment today.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, maybe. And by the way, that's one thing that in talking with the chief that was suggested, maybe what we ought to do is find and somehow to fund it, either some type of a student, or at the high school or at the college level, that are targeting to go into public works, and they could be there on that Friday before, when all the kids are out there throwing stuff all over the place, and kind of help encourage them to, to police up their own debris and all that. Okay, so that's a good thought. Second item is, here we are in September. Past practice has been to give city managers a 6-month evaluation. That did not happen, and right now that city manager is going to be here with us at a year. And we definitely need to do it by that point. So we need to discuss that and get that resolved, CW.
Well, I don't know that it's been an absolute fact that 6 months has been a review period of time. I don't remember Gary getting a 6-month review.
No. For I'm talking about, it had been Gary's here forever, so we always evaluated him at the end of the year. But we were through a succession of city managers. I mean, it was like a revolving door. When I worked in the private sector, we had a position that was sort of the overseer of the staff. And that position changed almost every 6 to 8 months. And so we created an award that we would give that person when they departed. And basically it was a revolving plastic door that we did. And I mean, for a while there, we were going through that with the city manager. But I just bring the fact that we needed to, I think, to evaluate the city manager. If not 6 months, definitely we got to do it by the year anniversary.
Yeah, no question. Yes, we will. Yes, up or down. Yes. She's doing the Roman thumbs here. Okay. Yes, we will get that done. Anything else, Jim?
No.
No. Anybody else have any future directives? I have one, if you don't mind. I actually thought that, and I want to thank Oakhurst for putting the fountain on during their tournament and stuff for around 9/11. They did it 9, 9, 10, and 11. The fountain was on, and they actually sponsored that. And I was downtown, and I thought, boy, that really looks nice on 9/11, especially the 20th anniversary of the tragedy there, with the flags from the fire area, from the fire station, and then the fountain. I'd like to see us consider making that a tradition in Clayton, where 9/11 we run the fountain. So just as something we can discuss. I know it's not a national holiday, but it is a national day of tragedy and remembrance of the fallen, and certainly of the firefighters and all the first responders, and those that continue to perish from lung disease and everything that went on there. So anyway, that's what I would like to add.
By the way, I don't know if you noticed it, but the Police Officers Association all purchased commemorative badges that they wore, and they're continuing to wear them for the 20-year celebration of that. I thought it was real commendable upon the Police Officers Association. They funded that effort entirely.
Does anybody have anything else?
I just have one,
yes,
one really quick. I won't keep us long. Just to reiterate my request from a few months ago to have the, whether it was a closed session or an open session with the joint Planning Commission and City Council, just to go over protocol and to talk about our rule book. I can't remember what the proper name of it is now, that 11-page document that we have, just to update that because it seems to be outdated in some areas. I still would like to revisit that. That's all.
That's it? Okay. Well, then that means we have adjourned. We're going to adjourn now to October the 5th. Will be our next meeting. So thank you all for joining in. Stay safe. Good night.